The weakest talent. Have you heard of Senju? This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 on Zhang Daosheng and -039's daughter and son, who are the ones with the genetic mutation. Baizhen gave the West Wind Lion King a frantic wink, and the West Wind Lion King was stunned for a moment. Boy, Bei, are your eyes cramping, Bei? Zan was silent and glanced at Zhang Daosheng subconsciously. It's alright, it's been so long. Zhang Daosheng shook his head. Although Zhang Daosheng was slightly shaken when he mentioned Zhang Daosheng's wife, he quickly calmed down. Baizhen was still a little worried, but he was relieved to see Zhang Daosheng like this. After all, that incident had a great impact on Zhang Daosheng, and there was a reason why he had never broken through the starry realm. Ye Chen was also curious about Zhang Daosheng's story, but seeing Baizhen's appearance, he dismissed the problem. So, we talked about how to kill from the semi-holy level alien beast, and then to the alienation of talent. So, this semi-holy alien beast, do we use our mouth to kill him? Lan Batian looked at everyone with a serious face, said. It has to be said that in terms of changing the topic, Lan Batian scored full marks in this wave. My talent is relatively different. I can directly use the highest attack of my talent, but the premise is that my strength is strong enough, otherwise I will be evacuated in an instant like before. Ye Chen nodded helplessly. Ye Chen already knew about the things given by the system. What is given is the development of this talent item to the peak. That is to say, in theory, as long as the spiritual power is enough, Ye Chen can immediately use the Buddha to slaughter the city instead of being attacked by one round. To drain the spiritual power, the highest attack. Zhang Daosheng was stunned. He was a little puzzled. Baizhen frowned slightly. Ye Chen's meaning should be that his talent is full from the beginning, full of alienation, and all he lacks is spiritual power. Ye Chen nodded when he heard Baizhen's words. But you have no fire, Zhang Daosheng said suddenly, and then his eyes widened instantly. Wait, what do you mean? You still have a fire element? Zhang Daosheng's volume increased a lot and stood up abruptly. Ye Chen was helpless and knew that this would be the result. But Ye Chen didn't respond, shrugged, and said nonchalantly, I didn't say I only have the wood element. Everyone is petrified. The talents of the wood element are so strong, and the fire element, yes. No wonder that fire type knife recognizes your wood type as the master. So, Zhang Daosheng was very excited. This time he really found a treasure. Double talent genius. This is a world-class monster. Even among alien beasts, not many races have dual talents. So, your fire element can also directly fill the attack. Zhang Daosheng's voice is a little hoarse. If that's the case, then Zhanghai City will be saved. But Ye Chen's next sentence broke other people's thoughts. When I use the wood element, I can only use the wood element. Ye Chen sighed. The fire element. I can only use one knife with my current strength. If I use stronger skills, I'm afraid it will be turned into a mummified corpse in an instant. Bei Zan took a deep breath, and when his spiritual power bottomed out, he was already exhausted. If the spiritual power is exhausted, he will faint directly like Ye Chen. If you get shot straight to death. Hearing this sentence, even Zhang Daosheng couldn't help frowning. If that's the case, Ye Zhaozi, you don't need to intervene in this matter. I will respond to the academy and then to the highest authority. As for the result, Zhang Daosheng said this, but he didn't say more. Lan Batian took Zhang Daosheng's words. We are not heroes. We are just a human race. As a human race, I feel that it is necessary to do something to our compatriots, but it is definitely not a useless sacrifice. If it is said that my sacrifice can change the safety of the other side, I may hesitate for a while. In the future, my daughter will be able to tell people that my father died to protect Zhanghai City, but I can't do it. Bei Zan was silent for a moment. Batian is right, but I'm different. I'm a soldier. Zhanghai City is here. I'm here. Unless the upper management orders to retreat. Otherwise, even if I try my best, I will try. Ye Chen heard this, took a deep look at Beizan, and then said, if I can enter the mountain moving realm, maybe I can try. No. Zhang Daosheng slapped the table vigorously. I can't let you take this risk. And the college entrance examination is ahead of schedule. There are still 2 weeks. You have to take the test. The Westwind Lion King was about to fall asleep by the side, but was woken up by Zhang Daosheng slapped on the table. Come on. I just said that the ban will be lifted, and I didn't say that it will be lifted immediately. It's just the near future. The Westwind Lion King glared at Zhang Daosheng. Then, how much time do we have? Ye Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. The Westwind Lion King glanced at Ye Chen. As short as a month, as long as half a year. After all, the sage sealed it for 100 years, but it's just a specific time. What does it mean that if I seal you for 36,500 days, it must be 36,500 days? What? The words of the Westwind Lion King were like a shot in the arm for everyone. Ziffing is right. This 100 years is indeed only an approximate time. You don't have to worry about it. What's more, what if the alien beast left immediately after the seal was broken? Wouldn't it be more false alarm? Beizan said, come on, you guys can discuss it slowly. I have to go to practice. Ye Chen stood up suddenly. He now felt that he was not strong enough. Now he is like a high attack mage with full attack, average defense, average speed, and a shortage of mana. Zhang Daosheng closed his eyes and put his hands around his chest. You follow Zilei to Kyoto tomorrow and take the college entrance examination. Ye Chen was stunned for a moment. What do you mean? You have to go to Kyoto for the college entrance examination, except for the Westwind Lion King. Everyone else looked at Ye Chen as if they were looking at ZZ. What have you learned in school all these years? Lan Batian couldn't help asking. Ye Chen scratched his head embarrassedly. I've given it back to the teacher. Okay, since Zhanghai City is not in any danger at the moment, you should cultivate well and become stronger. First, go to Kyoto with Zilei to find out the specific situation. Then you will represent Zhanghai No. 1 Middle School, and Laoli will also recruit students. You can get acquainted with the teachers of Kangkyang Academy. Zhang Daosheng ignored Ye Chen's words, stood up and said directly, then turned and left. By the way, old Zhang, I have always wanted to ask you a question. If the Ice Phoenix Saint is your daughter, when Beizan heard Ye Chen's words, his brows twitched slightly. He wouldn't ask that, would he? Brother Zilei, as your son, why is he so weak? Zan was stunned. You really asked? Zhang Daosheng took 2 steps and almost fell directly. Turning around abruptly, Ye Chen had already disappeared without a trace. Ye Chen, who was running all the way, said silently, is it because brother Jerry has a genetic mutation and has become weaker? Or is it the genetic mutation of the sister who has never met and has become stronger? Or both? Chapter 52. Zhang Zilei, who lives in the shadow of his sister. A person who was changing students' homework at school suddenly sneezed. It's strange, although I'm not strong, but I'm from the ice element anyway, so I can catch a cold. Speaking of which, he shook his head and denied it immediately. Could it be that someone is thinking of me? Well, that's the only way to say it. However, Ye Chen has returned to the school's villa. Someone misses you. My shit. Just then, someone's phone rang. Tomorrow, you will accompany Ye Ziozi to Kyoto. Zhang Daosheng's voice suddenly came out. Zhang Zilei was stunned. Dad, okay, why did you let me go to Kyoto? And isn't the exam still 2 weeks away? It's too late to go next week, right? Why are you talking so much? I asked you to take him there to learn about the top contenders in the college entrance examination. Don't miss any of the stronger ones. Find them all for Ye Chen. Have you heard? Zhang Daosheng scolded, but when he finished saying this, his face suddenly became strange. Does this kid really need to know the opponent's strength? But he immediately shook his head again. He really still needs to understand. Otherwise, what if he accidentally kills the other party? Oh, I see. Zhang Zilei was yelled out of temper. Zhang Daosheng immediately hung up the phone and complained angrily. One of them doesn't make me worry. One is not strong enough to worry about. And one has been away from home for more than 10 years. I haven't met. Zhang Daosheng shook his head and went home. It's Just that Zhang Daosheng didn't know that when he said this, Zhang Bingking was looking at him, kinking. Uncle Zhang is old. Are you really not going to see him? When Zhang Bingking heard Lin Jing speak, he was stunned and shook his head. The alien beast has not retreated. How do I get out? Lin Jing's eyes were dazed, and he hesitated. Yes, as the only saint with divine beast talent. Only with her on the front line can you be as stable as Mount Tay. Ye Chen practiced in the villa for a whole day. Knowing that his blue quantity was insufficient, he began to decide to become a scroll king. After the night passed, Ye Chen prepared his luggage early. The first real journey to this world, Kyoto. There was a trace of confusion in Ye Chen's eyes. Dang. Ye Chen, can I come in? Zhang Zilei came to look for Ye Chen after breakfast. After all, Zhang Daosheng just explained it last night, so he had to be careful. From Zhanghai City to Kyoto, this distance is actually enough for a maglev train in one day. Go out in the morning and arrive in the evening. This is also the reason why the Yansan people were able to arrive at Zhanghai City so quickly. At the same time, in the Yan family, the third brother, haven't you responded yet? As the great elder of the Yan family, Yan Zanshan finally realized that something was wrong at this moment. Yan Zanren's strength has cleared to him. Although he is not as strong as himself, he will not lose to a wine type beast. But now, 2 days have passed, and Yan Zanren and the others have not received any news. Although it is an era of powerhouses with the recovery of spiritual energy, technology is also considered advanced. In such an era, even a single message could not be captured. The only news I got was, that morning, a 2,000 meter tall Buddha was located in the Lanjia manor and the vibration didn't stop for a long time. How could Yan Zanshan not be clear? Brother, this matter, I'm afraid I have to report it to the head of the family. I suspect this so-called great Buddha, Yan Zan said with a gloomy face. Yan Zanshan raised his small hand, his eyes filled with hatred and fear. It's the scorching Sunday after all. Yan Zanren is his third brother, his own, but in the face of an existence like the scorching sun realm, how can I deal with the bright moon realm? Although Yan Zanshan was already at the peak of the bright moon realm, even stronger than Yan Feng's father, the current Yan family patriarch, he was still a long way from the scorching sun realm. The scorching sun realm, as the upper three realms, is not like the awakening realm, which can be broken through by drinking water. Of course, Zhang Bing cleared out. If it's really in the scorching sun, it's useless to report to the patriarch. The Yan family has only 2 scorching sun. Yan Zanshan's face was very ugly, and there was a lot of cold sweat on the hand he held. The old ancestor is old, and the number of times he can do it must not be used indiscriminately. The old family owner was ordered by a demigod to support the front line. Hearing what Yan Zanshan said, Yan Zan suddenly didn't know how to answer. Did you just give up? Yan Zander suddenly lost control. Speaking of which, the second vein of the Yan family, that is, the vein of Yan Zanshan. Currently the strongest are Yan Zanshan, Yan Zander, and Yan Zanren. Here, I want to thank a lovely and smart reader. He said, is there another one named Yan Zander? Actually I named it after Cheyenne Diron, but I suddenly felt, Yan Zander seems to be pretty good too. Yan Zander, that lovely and smart reader, I thank you. Thank you so much. Now that the third brother died suddenly, Yan Zander was also very uncomfortable. Then, what can we do? Just because of a waste young master, a third brother, and 2 elders of the starry realm, should I invite the ancestors of the scorching sun realm to leave the customs? Yan Zanshan angrily scolded. Then he found that his emotions were not quite right and calmed down. This is the end of this matter. Send the information that has been investigated so far to the head of the family, and let the head of the family decide. Yan Zanshan stepped forward and patted Yan Zander on the shoulder. The 3 brothers have lived together since childhood. Step by step, he climbed to the Yan family elders group, but now the third brother is dead. It doesn't feel good to be anyone, right? Yan Zander nodded and stopped talking. Zhanghai City, the train station. Speaking of which, why don't we take a plane? Ye Chen said suddenly. Where did your liberal arts knowledge go? Zhang Zilei was dumbfounded. In an era when alien beasts are so rampant, the probability of a plane crash is almost 100%. Back Then, a bird could smash glass because of the speed of the plane. What kind of plane do you think can withstand the attack of alien beasts? Zhang. Zhilei rolled his eyes. Ye Chen suddenly realized, yes, but I think there should still be a means of transportation that can fly, right? Ye Chen asked a little unwillingly. Zhang Zhilei gave a very patient answer. Nonsense, but at least it's not for picking up students. Oh, the chatterbox. Ye Chen is online again. This time the victim is Zhang Zhilei. By the way, what is your talent, brother Zhilei? Ye Chen asked. Zhang Zhilei the feeble kid. A chicken. Obviously, this is not the first time he has answered a question like this, but there's no way that's the truth. Chicken? Ye Chen couldn't believe it. Zhang blinking eyes. Phoenix, but Zhang Zhilei is a chicken. No, this is definitely not right. This must be no ordinary chicken. Facing Ye Chen's reaction, Zhang Zhilei was used to it. The pace quickened a few steps, with a wry smile on his face. Sister, I'm particularly eye-catching under your light. Chapter 53. Everything has a one time, such as the one train crash. Seeing Zhang Zilei's lonely figure, Ye Chen suddenly felt the same way. My sister is a saint of the human race, but I'm an awakened high school teacher. Talent is just a chicken. Such a gap. It's hard, isn't it, brother? Zhilei, it's alright. What if one day your talent suddenly becomes alienated, then explodes, and you become a saint? Ye Chen ran forward and said to Zhang Zi. Zhang Zilei was taken aback by Ye Chen's words, and he didn't seem to recover over the years. Once someone heard that their talent was just a chicken, they immediately changed their attitude towards themselves. But Ye Chen seems to be different. Zhang Zilei thought so, but suddenly smiled bitterly in his heart. Maybe it's because of his father. After all, his father values him so much. Zhang Daosheng, who was hesitant to speak, silently stepped on the train. Ye Chen didn't know how to speak. After all, he really didn't know how to comfort people. He sighed helplessly and followed him on the train. The two of them were seated next to each other, but the atmosphere was a little awkward. My dad asked me to help you collect outstanding students from various cities of the human race, saying that he wanted to let you know your opponents. Zhang Zilei said suddenly. Ye Chen nodded subconsciously. Old Zhang has a heart. Zhang. Zilei rolled his eyes once again, more than he was intentional. My sister and I are not treated like you. To you biological, but you are an auxiliary department. Zhang Zilei sighed. I think my dad is afraid that you will be killed. Ye Chen murmured to himself. Maybe he was afraid that the other party would be killed by me. What did you say? Zhang Zilei didn't hear Ye Chen's whisper, but he heard it roughly. But he thought he had heard it wrong. Nothing. Ye Chen said quickly. Hearing Ye Chen's answer, Zhang Zilei didn't think anymore. There are still some things that need to be explained to you. After all, I don't think you understand anything. The college entrance examination this time has been brought forward by nearly a month, so the content of the test has also been relatively reduced. For example, the secret realm assessment in previous years was biased towards the advanced secret realm, and this year's will be relatively weak. Then, there is the individual strength qualifying, but you don't have to think about this. After all, you are just a support. Zhang Zilei glanced at Ye Chen helplessly. Ye Chen nodded. Got it. It seems that this so-called college entrance examination is not a big deal. Ye Chen immediately lost interest in practicing for the college entrance examination. However, some monsters appear every year, and there are many people who have stepped into the moving mountains within 2 months. There are even many self-awakened existences. Those are evil spirits. Zhang Zilei's eyes are full of desire for strength, yearning for genius. Oh, this is a bit interesting. Ye Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. For example, a few years ago, there was a giant along with a talent for beasts who entered the late stage of moving mountains in 2 months. For example, last year's talent was a wooden sword. I thought that the wooden sword was not powerful, but I didn't expect that one move and one sword were directly shocked as Zhang Z was suddenly excited as he spoke. It is conceivable that over the years, how strong his views on college entrance examination training are. Well, in fact, every year Zhanghai City is led by him. Poor tool man. What about this year? Ye Chen asked. Zhang Zilei closed his eyes, thinking about something, and suddenly opened his eyes. Yes. There is a very special existence this year, and his talent is a book. Zhang Zilei was instantly excited. SSS level talent. It is said that this book is one of the classics of Confucianism back then. The usage of talent seems to be out of words. Follow the law. Follow the law? Ye Chen exclaimed. What is that? Legend has it that only immortals have the ability, right? Ye Chen's exclamation made the entire train look over. Zhang Zilei glared at Ye Chen. Be quiet. Of course it's not like the words in mythology. It can only affect things within the scope of your own strength. The role in battle is probably to make you fall, create flaws, or slip your hands or something. Ye Chen heard the words and nodded with a vague understanding point, but he always felt that it was not so simple. I'm not very clear about the other details. I'll go and inquire when I get to Kyoto. Zhang Zi said this and glanced at Ye Chen. But you don't have to take it too seriously. It's right to surrender when you meet these people already. Well, I see. Ye Chen smiled at Zhang Zilei point. After the short exchange, Ye Chen was very satisfied with his secrecy about his strength point. In fact, if it wasn't for the sake of hitting the Yan family, Ye Chen still wanted to keep hiding point. As the saying goes, let the opponent look down on you and then crush the opponent. You will be happy, okay? Don't force it. Today's reward has arrived. Old man Yamamoto's primary beheading technique. Collected. The system's voice appeared coldly, and Ye Chen's happiness came again. He quickly teased in his mind. Yo, isn't this the system? It's been pulled for several days, and it's so generous today. The system was silent. Next time, give me the advanced slashing technique directly. Don't waste time. It's not good for each other. Then Ye Chen punctured the blue ball thrown by the system point. At the moment of puncturing, a wave of knowledge flooded into my mind point like a classmate who has been practicing swordsmanship for decades. His grasp of every detail clearly emerges in his mind point. Decades of experience in swordsmanship out of thin air. Ye Chen thought. So point Raijin Jaka would also be lying in the ring if he were not still on the train point. He really wanted to show it off point. After calculating the time, it still takes 4 or 5 hours to reach Kyoto, so I can only take a small squat. Ye Chen narrowed his eyes when the two train officers hurriedly ran towards the front of the train point looking in a hurry. Ye Chen was stunned for a moment, as if there was something wrong with the carriage in front point, but he didn't care. After all, it had nothing to do with him point. On the other hand, Zhang Zilei, who was beside Ye Chen, frowned. Nothing will happen, right? Will there be any accident? Ye Chen said subconsciously. The probability of a train crash is also very high. If an alien beast happens to be on the track, the vibration generated by the impact will affect the entire train. If the alien beast is too strong, when Zhang Zi said this, Ye Chen suddenly realized the two police officers hurried to the train just now. Wouldn't something really happen? Ye Chen's eyes twitched a few times. Did you have an accident on your first train ride? Ye Chen's face is full of black lines, so nothing is satisfactory. Hey, I just want to go to Kyoto quietly like a vacation. Is it that difficult? Chapter 54. Kill it. Ye Chen stood up and walked towards the front of the carriage. Ye Chen, where are you going? Zhang Zilei blurted out. Ye Chen turned his head and smiled. I want to go see a lively event. Zhang Zilei is going crazy. This kid is real. It's hard to say. You're making a fool of yourself. Going to see the fun at this time. Didn't you cause trouble for others? Zhang Zilei angrily scolded. The voices of Ye Chen and Zhang Zilei successfully made everyone in the carriage turn their attention to the two of them again. Ye Chen was speechless on the spot. This Zhang Zilei, a bit of a no-brainer, but it's not Zhang Zilei's fault. In Zhang Zilei's eyes, Ye Chen is now a gold-swallowing beast. 10,000 spirit stones were swallowed in just a few days if they died, and Zhang Daosheng had clearly said before that he would bring Ye Chen with him, so he naturally became more concerned. If Zhang Daosheng knew what Zhang Zilei was thinking now, he would not have jumped up to give him a chestnut. In desperation, Ye Chen had no choice but to return to his original seat. Anyway, The police officers didn't say anything about it now, so it shouldn't be a big deal. What a pity. What a chance to watch. Because of Zhang's delay, Ye Chen was really difficult. But just when Ye Chen thought that the problem was not big, the problem became big. The horn on the train suddenly sounded. Passengers, please fasten your seatbelts, and there will be a wave of shocks next. I saw a flight attendant suddenly running across the carriage in a panic, shouting while running, "Everyone, just follow the broadcast, and do it quickly." Hearing the flight attendant's words, everyone quickly began to act. Because trains often bump into alien beasts, the material of the front of the train is generally made of alien beast bones. If the alien beast is hit, there will be internal injuries. After all, the speed of the train is too fast. But there are always exceptions. What happened? Ye Chen couldn't help but ask. This time, even Zhang Zilei's scalp was numb. It seemed that something had really happened this time. There is a strange beast in front, about as high as a mountain, and it is expected to hit it in 10 minutes, the flight attendant said timidly. What? Alien beast? Then why don't you stop? Stop. It's over. Why did I encounter a strange beast at this time? What should I do? My money hasn't been spent yet. Zhao Li, my godfather is sorry for you. I'm afraid I won't be able to see you anymore. I'll transfer some money to you. If your godfather is away in the future, you need to spend less. Everyone's reaction was mixed, and some even picked up the phone and opened their last words directly. The flight attendant's face was also very ugly, and he took out a walkie-talkie and switched the channel to the entire train horn. Passengers, please keep calm. Please give the train crew some time. We will definitely ensure the safety of the passengers as soon as possible. If we stop and the beasts riot, we will lose the last means of transportation and become lambs to be slaughtered. Please trust the security personnel of the train crew. They are all strong people who move mountains and will ensure everyone's safety. I have suffered so much for this flight attendant. I have to patiently explain so much in this situation. Just then, several people behind the carriage stood up. Is there anything we can help you with? The man with a determined face could easily see that he was a tough guy who regularly worked out. We are soldiers. This time we are going to Kyoto to prepare for the front line. If there is anything we can help, just say it. Several soldiers said quickly. The flight attendant looked a little confused. Then come with me. Ye Chen saw this situation and silently followed. This time, Zhang Zilei didn't stop him. After all, although Ye Chen is only an auxiliary department, in this case, if he can help, he still has to help. Train conductor, these are the soldiers who are preparing to go to the front line. I heard about the danger in front of the train, and I want to know what I can do to help. The flight attendant quickly introduced several soldiers to the conductor. Suddenly his eyes were on Ye Chen. Who are you? The flight attendant asked immediately. Ye Chen indifferently looked at the alien beast that was blocking the route on the train screen and said his identity. By the way, student. Nonsense. What are you doing here as a student? Go back to your seat. The conductor glared at the flight attendant and scolded Ye Chen. Ye Chen is not angry. After all, the situation is not optimistic. It is right to be anxious. I am a wood type, and I also have the strength to awaken the 7 realms, so I want to see if there is anything I can help. Ye Chen explained. Hearing Ye Chen's explanation, everyone turned their attention to this boy who looked only 18 years old. Ye Chen released the spiritual power on his body, and everyone felt it, and then they believed Ye Chen's words. But the train conductor was still a little worried. You can just help restore everyone's spiritual power behind you later, and you must pay attention to your own safety. But at this moment, the alien beast on the train track suddenly moved. Ye Chen's eyes were quick and his hands were quick, and he quickly pointed to the screen. That alien beast moved. When everyone heard the words, they took a breath of cold air. Originally, the alien beast was curled into a ball, and it was impossible to tell what type of alien beast it was. But after the alien beast stood up now, only to find out that it was actually a boar, and in terms of its size, it definitely has the strength to move mountains. In particular, the alien beast such as the mountain shaking pig is much larger than other alien beasts. It is more famous with defense, shaking. The mountain pig, Ye Chen muttered to himself. It is indeed comparable to a hill. but it is still far from the mountain. That mountain boar was only 20 meters tall at most, and Ye Chen didn't take him seriously at all. The soldiers were instantly overjoyed when they saw the shaking pig move. It seems that this alien beast should be resting here, and now it's over. But the moment he hadn't finished speaking, the mountain shaking pig turned his neck, running towards the track. Damn it. The soldier was slapped in the face a few seconds after he finished speaking. What should I do now? Ye Chen hurriedly asked the conductor. Is there any other plan? The conductor was sweating coldly. Although the bones of alien beasts are very hard, they can't be compared with the mountain boar. If it hits like this, the train will be destroyed. Ye Chen's scalp was numb when he heard this, but also, the powerful bones of alien beasts are used to make weapons, and they are used by the frontline soldiers. Most of what remains are some skeletons that have moved mountains and seas, but a beast like the mountain shaking pig can have a defense comparable to moving a mountain in the awakening realm. What's more, the mountain shaking pig in front of him has the strength to move mountains. Only stop. Evacuate the passengers, the conductor said unwillingly. Ye Chen suddenly shook his head. It's okay to park, but it's not necessary to evacuate passengers. Actually, there is another way. A fierce look flashed in Ye Chen's eyes. What way? Everyone asked quickly. Kill it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, The Junior and His Dragon. At that time, there were only 11 people at the head of the train. Besides Ye Chen, there are 10 others, but the whole head of the train was silent. At that moment, everyone felt that the young man in front of him might have an abnormal IQ. Or the brain is not enough. Young man, what you said is really a good idea. The conductor laughed instead of anger, then his face suddenly changed, his face gloomy. Then you go kill one and show me. Ye Chen geared up. Okay, what's good? Zhang Zilei suddenly appeared at this critical moment. My dad asked me to take good care of you. If something happens to you at this time, what will I tell my dad? Zhang Zilei roared at Ye Chen. Ye Chen poked out his ears. Old Zhang is also true. I don't know how to tell you about my strength. Those who don't know now think I'm weak. Saying that, he flicked the dirt in his fingernails. Aura looked into the storage ring, and a long knife appeared. Pointed his right jinjaka. Ye Chen held Jinjaka in his hands. Isn't it just a pig? Give me a minute. His father, Zhu Beiji, whom I called, didn't even know him. No, little brother, this is not a joke, said one of the soldiers who wanted to help earlier. Ye Chen shook his head. No joke. Since you don't believe me, stop and be ready to evacuate passengers if I can't get through. Ye Chen shrugged helplessly. Zhang Zilei couldn't say anything angry and pointed at Ye Chen. His arms were shaking. You and I. Ye Chen stepped forward and patted Zhang Zilei on the shoulder. Oh, brother Zilei, you have to believe me. Zhang Zilei's brows knitted tightly. How can you make me believe? Stop it, train conductor. Ye Chen said. The train conductor was very helpless. The car had to be stopped. He couldn't stop Ye Chen from going to die. After all, his legs were on him. But the evacuation of people was something that had to be done right away. That's the only way. The conductor was very helpless. The flight attendant who had brought Ye Chen and the others to the flight room also quickly took out the walkie-talkie and began to report the situation to the passengers in the carriage. There was a groan in the car. You must know that it is in the wild now, and if they stop, their safety can only be guaranteed by themselves until the train crew sent someone down to rescue. Ye Chen opened the car door alone, and a cold feeling hit. The air in nature is much better than in the city. Ye Chen grabbed the car door with one hand and squeezed his elbow. Instantly flipped onto the carriage. Then, what? I'm going. Everyone is speechless. So you don't have to be in such a hurry to find death, right? Although it was just a moving mountain, the defense was too strong, and although the attack was not very strong, the alien beast was the alien beast. Can't break the defense. How to fight? After Ye Chen finished speaking, he clapped his hands, and Sage Body was instantly excited. Wood style. Wood dragon technique. Ye Chen didn't plan to run from here to that mountain shaking boar. You must know that the train will hit it in 10 minutes, plus the time it takes for the boar to run over and then. Now it's parked. That is to say, there is still a long way to go. The crowd is preparing to start evacuating passengers. I saw a big tree suddenly appeared in the ground beside Ye Chen. The big tree instantly transforms into a dragon at a speed that is impressive. To the naked eye, the 10 people at the head of the train have their eyes straight. The conductor swallowed and broke the silence. If I read it right, it's dragon. I think you must have read it right. The flight attendant held the walkie-talkie before turning off the microphone. Passengers on the entire train heard it clearly. Originally the door was open. I heard a dragon. They all rushed out. Just at this moment, the wooden dragon leaned down. Ye Chen jumped up and landed firmly on top of the wooden dragon's head. Moving quickly towards the track, it quickly disappeared from everyone's eyes. It's just a little weird how it moves. This dragon doesn't seem to be able to fly. Who took the video just now? I'll give you 500. Pass me one. After realizing it, a big brother suddenly said, me. I happened to photograph the man jumping on top of the faucet. A young man raised his hand quickly and said, at this moment, a girl suddenly said, he is heading towards the track. Doesn't he want to deal with alien beasts? Because when the flight attendant said that the passengers would be evacuated before, it was clearly stated that there was a strange beast running down the track towards the train ahead. Hearing this girl say this, everyone suddenly reacted. Does he want to fight the alien beast alone? After the big brother got the video, he looked at the slightly immature Ye Chen in the video and said incredulously, he's still a student. He's about the same age as my son. Yeah, maybe not as old as my son. Everyone opened their mouths. You said he would win. I don't know. He's still too young, but I hope he wins. Uncle took out his mobile phone and glanced at the young boy in the phone. The train conductor was also silent for a long time. Should he believe this young man? Let's follow up and see if he can't beat him. We are desperate to bring him back. The soldiers who even mentioned their names suddenly said. Then, without saying a word, he ran in the direction Ye Chen ran. The 2 train security guards also wanted to keep up, but they didn't because they had to stay behind to protect the passengers behind them. Ye Chen stood on the wooden dragon, thinking carefully about a very serious question. Should I wait for it? Or will it bind it with a wooden dragon, and he will die after absorbing the spiritual power? Or Jinjakashike took a second. Otherwise, let's start with wooden golem. Hey, punch it in the head. So annoying. This is simply the nightmare of choosing difficult patients. What Ye Chen didn't know was that the scene where he jumped on the wooden dragon had already been posted on the Douyin platform *Young Dragon Royal in order to ensure the safety of the passengers. On the train, he fought against strange beasts alone. The young man is arrogant. One person, one knife and one dragon. Whoever comes is killed by the enemy. I have to say, this copy is 1 by 2, but it seems that there is indeed such a mood. A wooden dragon leaned down. The young man turned his head slightly and clenched the long knife in his waist. He jumped up and settled on the faucet. The whole network exploded. After Daksha entered the era of recovery, Douyin became one of the pastimes of the human race. From time to time, I look at the good news from the front line. And from time to time I watch the soldiers shed their blood to defend their home and country. Therefore, after Ye Chen appeared in the video, the audience instantly exploded. That young man seemed not to be afraid of life and death, and he was not worried about no return. Chapter 56. A few minutes later, Ye Chen saw the mountain boar running along the track. The wooden dragon stood face to face. Ye Chen looked directly at the cute pig nearly 20 meters tall in front of him. It doesn't look too big. Ye Chen was a little unhappy. After all, the wooden dragons are 40 meters long. After standing up, it looks like they are looking down at the boar. Finally, the mountain shaking pig also saw the wooden dragon in front of him, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Although the wooden dragon looks like a dragon, it does not have the pressure of blood. Shaking the mountain pig was stunned at the time. Should this be done? Ye Chen didn't plan to give it a chance. Since he chose to attack the train, he had to be mentally prepared. On the other side, on the side of the train, He also looked directly at the video, watching the mountain shaking pig getting closer and closer to Ye Chen. I don't know what kind of black technology it is. It can live broadcast remotely. In fact, this is just traditional satellite surveillance. After all, alien beasts are extremely rampant. And if you want to monitor each other, you have to rely on things the other party doesn't understand. Over the years, if it weren't for the pictures transmitted by these satellites, the human race would have lost a lot of money. Ye Chen waved his hand, and the wooden dragon headed towards the mountain boar and killed it. Shaking the mountain pig did not feel the pressure of the blood on the other side, and was also a brave group. Relying on his high blood and high defense, he did not slow down at all. Ye Chen didn't get scared when he saw the mountain shaking pig, but was a little surprised. Then he stepped hard and jumped behind him. The wooden dragon and the mountain shaking pig collided like two giant mountains. Boom. The powerful impact caused a violent airflow. Ye Chen raised his hand to cover his eyes and looked at the wooden dragon and the mountain pig. Shaking pigs are large, but not flexible enough. The wooden dragon is different. It is large in size, but very flexible. What's more, the wooden dragon still has claws. In the face of the fierce resistance of the mountain shaking pig, Mulong was rude. With one bite, he grabbed the back of the mountain shaking pig's neck and slammed his paw down. Ye Chen watched leisurely from the side. Yes, that's it. You need to beat the front legs a few more times. The wooden dragon directly wrapped around the body of the mountain shaking pig, and following Ye Chen's command, he slapped the mountain shaking pig's front legs one by one. After the mountain pig was entangled by the wooden dragon, he couldn't even run. I can only struggle frantically, and my eyes are full of fear. Although it is not highly intelligent, it can clearly perceive that the spiritual power in its body is decreasing. The alien beast in front of it that it doesn't know will absorb spiritual power, and the eyes of everyone on the train captain's side are very strange, and they have thought about a lot of fighting situations, either lose or escape or something. Result: Ye Chen stood on the side and didn't move much the whole time, and after the mountain boar was bound by the wooden dragon, no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't get away. What's even more speechless is that the dragon listened to Ye Chen's words and helped Ye Chen beat the front legs of the wild boar. Ye Chen boredly counted the number of times the wooden dragon beat and finally reached 999 times. Ye Chen waved his hand and Mulong stopped. Having hammered so many times, the meat quality should be good, right? Ye Chen stepped forward. The mountain pig was completely sucked by the wooden dragon and was bound by the wooden dragon, so he could only stare at Ye Chen with his eyes open. Ye Chen pulled out the long knife in his waist and looked at shaking boar with pity in his eyes. What is he going to do? Asked the conductor suddenly. The crowd shook their heads. Zhang Zilei thought for a while. Maybe he wants to eat pork legs. How is that possible? Could he be able to cut through the boar's defense just because he took a knife? Even if he could, he must have killed it. The flight attendant disagreed. Hearing the words, the train conductor nodded. I think so too. It should be to kill the mountain boar. Zhang Zilei didn't speak. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. In his heart, Ye Chen, this kid, is doing things that normal people can't imagine. So the question is, how do you know Zhang Zilei wants to eat pork legs? I saw Ye Chen swallowed and clenched right Jinjaka. Swipe out. A piece of meat fell from the front leg of the mountain pig in an instant. AWW. Tears welled up in the eyes of the mountain shaking pig in an instant. It hurt the pig to death. Ye Chen looked at the front leg meat that fell on the ground. His eyes lit up. Incredibly plump and firm. At this moment, the soldiers just arrived at Ye Chen's side and saw the scene in front of them. Including the conductor's side. Everyone was silent. The conductor was silent for a moment, then looked back at Zhang Zilei. You're right. It's because I'm too small. And Ye Chen looked at the soldiers and immediately said, it's just right. Does it have a water system? Wash the meat and then help me roast the meat. Those soldiers have never seen this kind of battle. After they ran over, what they saw would be like this. Captain, now, what can I do? Just do it. Everyone was speechless. Ye Chen turned to look at the mountain pig and erected the wooden dragon to beat the other front leg. Shaker is desperate. I have seen pigs butchering pigs. The soldiers who were about to wash the large piece of meat suddenly heard Ye Chen say such a sentence. You said, "Would roasting a whole pig taste better?" Everyone was speechless, but the leader called the captain touched his chin. "It's definitely more delicious, but it's too big to bake, easy to burn on the outside, but not cooked on the inside, and it's in the wild. There's no seasoning. It's too wasteful to bake it all." I saw him speak earnestly. Ye Chen heard the words and was thoughtful. Point. Since it can't be fully roasted, it can only be taken away. But the problem comes again. Such a big pig has no place to put it. You're right. Then kill the pig. Ye Chen's anger poured out, and when he mentioned Raijinjaka, he was about to kill the pig. 100,000 points to open the system backpack. Boy, do you want to buy it? Ye Chen was speechless and ignored the system directly. He had a hunch that this point definitely had other effects. The balance of his points is only 6 digits. How can he spend it now? It's just a mountain shaking pig. The little pig who moved to the mountains. No more. Ye Chen held Raijinjaka in his hand and whispered softly, stroking. A sword was swung out, and a sword key flew towards the shaking boar. The mountain shaking pig's eyes widened as he watched the strange sword energy inspired by Ye Chen's hands getting closer and closer to him. The dangerous aura in his heart became stronger and stronger. The mountain pig violently tried to break free, but suddenly stopped. Desperately looking at the sword energy in front of him, he closed his eyes. Sword key followed. As if they didn't hit the real thing. They passed through the boar shaking boar and the wood dragon. Shaking. The mountain pig opened his eyes in confusion and glanced at Ye Chen. Then the whole pig head detached from the body. Mulong said, "That I'm innocent. Can you stop cutting me next time?" Then the two parts of the wooden dragon recovered again. This scene directly made the train conductor and others look stupid. Zhang Zilei was speechless, thinking that Mulong was Ye Chen's backup. Unexpectedly, Ye Chen's light knife directly killed the mountain boar, but what they didn't know was that if the wooden dragon slapped the mountain shaking pig with one paw, it would still kill him. The paw shaking boar was slapped over 1,000 slaps before he died. Thank you for the show sent by Taiwei who loves fried chicken hearts with bell peppers. Thank you readers for your input. Chapter 57 Kyoto. Here I come. After the wooden dragon healed again, it directly entangled the mountain boar, and then Ye Chen jumped up. He winked at the soldiers. Several people were stunned, not knowing why. "Come up. Do you want to run back?" Ye Chen was speechless. "Oh." A few people followed Ye Chen and stood on Mulong's head. Ye Chen whispered, "Everyone, sit tight." On the train, Zhang Zilei looked at Ye Chen's figure. His whole hand never stopped shaking. Not afraid, but excited. Too strong. Zhang Zilei couldn't help saying. The train conductor was also silent. Who would have known the end would come so quickly, and that knife can basically be said to be crushed. Even if there is no wooden dragon entangled, it can still cause great damage to the mountain boar. Right, this is indeed the case. If it wasn't for the wooden dragon to absorb the spiritual power of the mountain boar, this knife won't kill shaking boar so easily. After all, when shaking boar uses spiritual power, its defense will also be strengthened a lot. It's as if you watched your defense plus 1000 skill cooldown, and then suddenly realized you don't have blue. Desperate not. The passengers who had planned to evacuate were all waiting for news from Ye Chen. And they also saw objects in the distance that were getting closer and closer to them. The huge body of the mountain boar appeared in the eyes of everyone, but everyone did not panic. Because that mountain shaking pig was brought over by that dragon. After a few breaths, Ye Chen stood in front of the train and jumped off. Those soldiers also got off the wooden dragon immediately, and Ye Chen lifted the wooden dragon technique directly. Then the mountain shaking boar slammed into the ground. Boom. The sound was a little dull. After Ye Chen did this, a large group of passengers swarmed up. He surrounded Ye Chen with water, and a flattery hit Ye Chen's ears. "Young man, it's all thanks to you this time." Yeah. Or really, my goddaughter is still waiting for me in Kyoto. Without me, she will definitely not survive. That's right. I'm rushing to Kyoto to pick up my girlfriend and get married. Yo, congratulations, brother. What's your girlfriend's name? Lin. Yao. How's it going? Doesn't it sound good? What? A coincidence, brother. My goddaughter is also called Lin Yao. Huh? Godfather? Are you the one my girlfriend always mentions? Ye Chen got a little impatient listening to a bunch of passengers talking about this. At that point the flight attendant seemed to see Ye Chen's distress. He quickly turned on the walkie-talkie. Every passenger, the alien beast has been resolved. Next, please return to your seat. We will continue to go to Kyoto in 5 minutes. Ye Chen's eyes brightened. Yes, now that the matter is settled, let's hurry back to our seats. I believe everyone is in a hurry to go to Kyoto, so we can't delay it. Hearing the words of the flight attendant and Ye Chen, although many people still want to get to know Ye Chen, but they leave for Kyoto in 5 minutes, and it's too late to get on the bus. That's not acceptable. So the crowd gradually dispersed. Zhang Zilei walked in front of Ye Chen. His mouth was a little sloppy, and he couldn't speak clearly. Ye Chen, how can you be so strong? Ye Chen said with a smile. This is my secret. Zhang Zilei nodded and didn't ask any more questions. It's just that this time Ye Chen's performance completely made Zhang Zilei no longer treat Ye Chen so coldly. Zhang Zilei is not the kind of person who looks down on people, but his attitude towards everyone is basically the same. Unless it is his father and sister. Except for these two, he only respects the strong, because he wants to be stronger. As for Ye Chen, he abused a mountain moving beast in his awakening state, and he was even a beast famous for its defensive power. Only one knife. You're right, you really should understand the combat power of others, otherwise you will kill them accidentally. Zhang Zilei shook his head and smiled bitterly. For a long time, it has always been a small one. Ye Chen smiled and said nothing. Walking to the front of the mountain shaking pig, he chopped off the front and hind legs of the mountain shaking pig with one knife. Put a whole hind leg into the ring and said to the soldiers, I don't want the rest, you can take as much as you can. Those soldiers were stunned. This is the alien meat of the mountain. You must know that the meat buns of the magic eye pig are 200 yuan each. That is a strange beast that awakens. However, they responded. Ye Chen didn't have such a big space ring, otherwise he wouldn't have left it on purpose. That's true, but even if Ye Chen had such a big ring, he wouldn't take it all. After all, he just wanted to try the meat of the mountain pig. Zhang Zilei didn't speak when he heard Ye Chen say no more. After all, Zhang Daosheng is a strong man in the sea falling realm. He has been in the sea falling realm since Zhang Zilei was born. I'm tired of eating the meat of the mountain, but there is no way. The spiritual power in the body still does not increase. The meaning is, although Zhang Zilei is weak, but my vision is something you people in awakening realm have never seen before. Except Ye Chen. That's it for the simple little episode. Dramatic ending. I thought I had to wait for the rescue from above, but I didn't expect that a young man would solve the trouble by himself. Due to Ye Chen's influence in the train now, the flight attendant upgraded the two of them for free and reflected Ye Chen's reality to the higher ups for the teenager and his dragon circulating in Daoyin. They have already become the first hotspot. It even crushed the battle reports handed down from the front line without him. Just because of the word dragon. Daksha has always said that the descendant of the dragon has been descended from ancient times. When the dragon is a creature who is not curious, Zhang Daosheng, Bazin and others who were far away in Zhanghai city became popular. When they saw that Ye Chen had not yet arrived in Kyoto. He also shook his head helplessly. This kid doesn't let people worry about wherever he goes. However, with his strength in the territory of the human race, it should be worry-free. After all, the few remaining scorching sun monsters in Kyoto, unless the capital is in trouble, absolutely cannot be easily shot. As for semi-holy and holy, the semi-sage must be forced to go to the front line, not to mention the holy realm, and the military power must be on one side. In other words, the strongest person in the entire human race is at most the peak of the bright moon realm. And Ye Chen, as a junior, even a freshman. Can't someone at the peak of bright moon realm attack Ye Chen without any reason? Moreover, during the training period for the college entrance examination, it is best to be mentally prepared. If you are shooting candidates. As the train slowly entered the station, passengers got off one after another, but Ye Chen was told by the flight attendant to wait a moment. After all, most passengers now want to see Ye Chen. Under the maintenance of the train set, the passengers finally dispersed. The moment Ye Chen stepped out of the train door, his eyes lit up. Kyoto? I'm here. Chapter 58. From the moment Ye Chen got off the bus, He was already under the eyes of most people in Kyoto Point after all. His video has already spread to everyone in the human race who has a mobile phone. A boy with his dragon point. It doesn't matter if you don't pay attention. For so many years, Daksha has been looking for traces of the divine beast point, but there was no eyebrows. The high level people always thought that there should be no such species as mythical beasts in this world. It was not until the appearance of Zhang Binking that the existence of the divine beast was completely confirmed. Although Ye Chen's dragon does not have too high intelligence and can't fly, but the momentum does exist, and the pressure of the blood cannot be felt across the screen. All over the human race. Ye Chen's life experience is being investigated. However, it was found that the identity was so ordinary that it was surprising. Kyoto University, Office of the Vice President, Chen Dong. This Ye Chen is at the SSS class Wood Type 1. The white-haired old man sitting in the chair looked at the video on his mobile phone and glanced at the investigation materials handed over. The investigation of Ye Chen is really too simple. After all, the direct train from Zhanghai City to Kyoto can tell the approximate origin of Ye Chen, right? Chen Dong was in a cold sweat. Yes, then. Can you explain the video and why Ye Chen was not admitted to Kyoto University? Lin Taexu said in a low voice. Lin Taexu's tone was terrifyingly indifferent. Chen Dong gritted his teeth, frowned and said, "It's teacher Yan. Let Yan Feng follow me to Ye Chen's house." After Chen Dong explained the ins and outs of the matter to Lin Taexu one by one, he stood aside and did not dare to leave. After Lin Taexu heard Chen Dong's words, anger immediately surged into his heart. "I said it long ago. No matter how weak SSS talent is, he is still SSS. You want to get an SSS to enter the academy with that kind of treatment?" Lin Taexu angrily rebuked. He never thought that Chen Dong would give Ye Chen such conditions. 100 spirit stones, 1 piece of wood attribute equipment, a special breathing method, not to mention that Ye Chen's SSS talent doesn't look down on him, but any S-grade talent doesn't look down on this kind of treatment. Name it! Exclamation mark. Auxiliary is not worth that much money. Lin Taexu pointed at Chen Dong and roared, "Go and recruit Ye Chen to Kyoto University. Otherwise, find another way." Yes, Chen Dong's face changed greatly. He didn't dare to refute. He replied and left quickly. Lin Taexu was left alone on the chair, rubbing his temples. "It's really big, that guy Ji Washiang. He went to the front line for so long and didn't come back. I'm just a nominal vice principal, busy with so many things every day." Lin Taexu looked at the pile of documents on the table, his scalp tingling instantly. He sighed deeply and continued to work on the documents. Compared with the situation at Kyoto University, the Yan family has already sorted out the situation. When inquiring about Ye Chen's background, it happened that when Yan Feng returned to the Yan family, he said that he had a conflict with the wood type trash. Yan Zhenhuang, the head of the Yan family, is also the biological father of Yan Feng. When investigating these news, I immediately learned about the situation with Yan Zhanshan. And Yan Zhanshan's information is not weak, which directly shows that Ye Chen is the most likely murderer to kill Yan Feng. Even so, Yan Zhenhuang is a little unhappy now. After all, Ye Chen's current popularity is a little too high, and the popularity has not dropped. And even though that Yan Feng was his own son, he was nothing but a waste. After killing Ye Chen, the Yan family must be the first to be suspected. If Ye Chen is not killed, if it is confirmed that Yan Feng died at the hands of Ye Chen, the Yan family will also be in a position of being ridiculed. Dilemma. Yan Zhenhuang is now more annoying than Lin Taexu, but in fact, there is more annoying. That's the beast religion. When Zhang Binking's divine beast talent was exposed, it had already become a climate, and it was impossible to start. But now Ye Chen, the wood system. But can there be a dragon? According to legend, the mythical beast King Lang belongs to wood. This is a good opportunity, and the beast god sect will inevitably move around. From the moment Ye Chen stepped into the capital, it was no longer peaceful. From this moment, Ye Chen has become a sweet existence, no longer the thoughtful auxiliary department. Even if it is really an auxiliary system, just relying on this dragon, it has a strong fighting power at the same time. On major platforms, it was also exposed that Ye Chen was rejected by Kyoto University. Of course, The initiator is the blue and cold double children. The reason was that Yan Feng had made a rumor that Ye Chen was disdainful of joining the capital, but this little girl was so angry that it was exposed directly. Isn't this Imperial University admissions teacher too interesting? Don't you need an auxiliary department? As long as you can cultivate it, it will be a living dead existence. Upstairs, you are right, but you also said that it must be cultivated. It will take decades for an SSS level attack talent to enter Fanxing with diligent practice, let alone an auxiliary department. What if you can't raise it? It can only be said that this was a big gamble, and Kyoto University didn't dare to gamble. But now the problem is gone. Ye Chen may be a divine beast talent of King Lang. This is the same divine beast talent as the Ice Phoenix Saint. It's small. The layout is small, brother. Ice Phoenix is a mutated beast, and there have always been 4 god tier beasts in ancient times: King Long, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Zuan Wu, and Ice Phoenix is not qualified to be on the list of these 4 god tier beasts. I still think the whole Daoyin can't stop. Ye Chen's new news and speculations are everywhere, occupying the hotspots all the way. But no one seems to associate Ye Chen with the giant Buddha that appeared in Zhanghai City. After all, in an awakening state, it is impossible to think about it. Although some people would doubt it, it was also denied by this realm. On Zhang Daosheng's side, everyone was speechless. Boy, Yi just inexplicably changed his talent. Zhang Daosheng had a strange expression on his face. Lan Batian took a breath. You ask me? Who am I to ask? The Lang family manor has just been destroyed and is being rebuilt. After Ye Chen left, Lang Batian followed Lan Lengshan to the school villa. The power of daughter slaves. You don't understand, brother. Zilei, where are we going now? Ye Chen looked at Zhang Zilei next to him. Zhang Zilei pushed his glasses and showed a smile. I'll take you to a secret base. Ye Chen was puzzled. And a secret base? The Buddha said. Don't say it. Zhang Zilei glanced at Ye Chen thoughtfully. Ye Chen rolled his eyes. Buddha said, you should say it. Zhang Zilei was speechless and glanced at Ye Chen resentfully. When did the Buddha say that? Ye Chen was shocked. Brother Zilei, you don't want to take me to that kind of place. That kind of place? What kind of place? Zhang Zilei was stunned for a moment, but did not react. Ye Chen smiled wickedly and gestured with both hands. That's it. Take me there. I won't tell Leo. Zhang Zilei's head was full of black lines. Can your brain be normal? I think my brain is normal. Some people always say that they can't understand the division of the realm. I'm a little silent. So I will post this sentence in today's latest chapter and the last page of the first chapter. Awaken the 9 realms, corresponding to body refinement. Move mountains and seas. 1. Practice strength. 1. Practice method. The stars. The spiritual power is greatly improved. Heoiu. Compared to the stars, how much spiritual power can you guess? The scorching sun, as above, can be thought of as the upper 3 realms are used to greatly increase the amount of mana and damage as for the semi-sacred ones further up. In fact, the scorching sun is full, and they have not yet entered the holy realm. Let's talk about the later realms later, but at the moment, I've only written about the holy realm, and there is also a foreshadowing of a demigod. This paragraph is 200 words long, but the chapters will also be filled with 2000 words. I hope you don't mind. Then this chapter is rather boring. The foreshadowing chapter. Wait, there are 2 more chapters later. Chapter 59, Formal Occasions at Dawn. 039. T seem formal. I heard that Ye Chen, who was suspected of being a talent of King Long, came to Kyoto. In an instant, the major forces surged just to win over Ye Chen. However, Ye Chen had already arrived at the secret base that Zhang Zilei said. Ye Chen lost interest as a whole, watching Zhang Zilei complaining in frustration. Is this the secret base you're talking about? After speaking, he looked up at the dilapidated villa in front of him. Don't say it. Under the night, it really looks like a haunted house. You said, will this villa be converted into an escape room? Will it explode directly? Zhang Zilei smiled awkwardly. It wasn't so broken when I came here last year. Zhang Jiraiya doesn't know why. After all, it's only been a year. Why is it broken like this? After speaking, he opened the fence of the villa yard and walked in. There were weeds everywhere, and even the floor tiles on the road leading to the gate of the villa were shattered by the wind and the sun. Ye Chen disliked and wiped the dust on the door with his hands, and his brows were wrinkled directly. Brother Zilei, why don't we go to the hotel? It's a little strange for the two of us to open a room. Let's just do it. Zhang Zilei responded casually. The corners of Ye Chen's mouth twitched. God fucking, two men open a room. Can't you open two rooms? Zhang Zilei ignored Ye Chen, picked up his mobile phone, and started to come to the door of the villa skillfully. From a pile of business cards on the ground, he found a cleaning company called 1 Hour Clean. It's up to you. Zhang Zilei called. Hello, this is the 1 Hour Clean cleaning company. What do you need? I have a villa that needs to be cleaned. The address is on the East 2nd Ring Road. Zhang Zilei said, but he didn't have time to finish his words. Oh, it's Mr. Zhang, right? Okay, I'll be there in half an hour. The reception staff on the opposite side obviously knew Zhang Zilei very well. After hanging up the phone, he immediately shouted to the employees behind him. Zhao. NIU. Yes, just last year's Begin Justice surnamed Zhang, who is stupid and has a lot of money. You go quickly. Okay Zhang. Zilei, who had just hung up the phone, suddenly shuddered. Old. And old. The body is not good. The wind will make you shiver. It seems that the body is replenishing. Zhang Zilei shook his head and muttered. Half an hour later, after handing over the keys to the cleaning company. Zhang Zilei took Ye Chen out. Ye Chen, it's not the big brother who said you are still too young. Today I will take you to meet the world. Zhang Zilei squinted and led Ye Chen out. Ye Chen was helpless and was dragged away by Zhang Zilei. Brother Zilei, it's 9 o'clock. It's only interesting at night. You can see a lot of powerhouses fighting. Zhang Zilei was very interested. After all, Zhang Zilei really admires his strength. Not to mention getting out of the car. Even in the car, he has already decided that he must come to watch the battle. Fighting? Ye Chen's eyes lit up instantly, and the previous reluctance was thrown away. Let's go. Take me there. Ye Chen directly turned against the guest and took Zhang Zilei out. Zhang Zilei was stunned. Why are you more excited than me? Hey, wrong direction. Okay. After twists and turns, it was nearly 10 o'clock when we arrived at the destination. It was all to blame for Zhang Zilei walking too slowly, and there was no means of transportation in Kyoto. Another reason is that Ye Chen felt that Zhang Zilei was walking too slowly. Proposed to run with Zhang Zilei. As a result, Zhang Zilei refused. Zhang Zilei was speechless. If someone saw a man holding another man in the way of a princess and running wildly in the 2nd Ring Road of Kyoto, tomorrow I'm afraid that the Daodain hotspot of your sophomore in the dragon will directly become shock. In the 2nd Ring Road of Kyoto, two men and princesses appeared and ran at night. Suspected gay men have hemorrhoids. Boyfriend took him to the hospital. Scary to think about. No, don't even think about it. Overnight fame. I refuse. Ye Chen looked at the feasting bar in front of him and fell into deep thought. Brother Zilei, although I know the bar is very open. Ye Chen adjusted his mind. But are you sure it has something to do with the battle you said? Stop talking nonsense. Just follow me. Zhang Zilei took Ye Chen into the bar and then handed a card to the bartender. 2 tickets. Thank you. The bartender raised his head and took a deep look at Zhang Zilei and Ye Chen. PLZ. Follow me. Ye Chen looked at this scene, looking a little inexplicable. I saw that I followed the bartender to the elevator, and the man directly pressed the button on the -3 floor. Woohoo. Today's new friend Yamao. That's a fierce group. Beast type talent Shadow Cat. He is about to challenge our old friend Rozhan. Let's wait and see for the next battle. As soon as the elevator door opened, there was a loud noise. Ye Chen was stunned. Isn't this the underground fighting arena that Lee often talks about? The bartender took out a credit card machine, swiped away 2 million Zaya coins, gave each of them a hand card, and turned to leave. Ye Chen took a deep breath. Brother Zilei, according to normal circumstances, shouldn't there be some kind of secret code in this place? Zhang Zilei gave Ye Chen a blank look. This is a regular fighting arena. Although there are occasional casualties, the normal situation is to stop. Zhang Zilei was slapped in the face. As soon as he finished saying this, I saw that the new friend called Night Cat was crushed by Rozhan and his limbs were broken. The breath in the mouth is out of breath, but there is no air in. I'm afraid that it is bad luck. Some gamblers have unusual identities, such as the Night Cat who just lost . Although he stepped down with one breath, he would also die at the hands of the gamblers who bet on him. Ye Chen pointed to the night owl on the battle stage. That's what you said until the end. I said it was an accident. Do you believe it? Ye Chen had a look of disbelief. Do you believe me? Haha. Zhang Zilei smiled awkwardly and took Ye Chen to find a seat to sit down. The cards were swept across the seat. Then a screen appeared on the seat with only two options, a Night Cat and a Rozhan. Obviously, this is for people to bet on. Ye Chen gave Zhang Zilei a deep look. Are you sure this place is legitimate? The whole underground 3 floors are crowded with people. Cheers cheered like a group of demons dancing wildly. Probably. Zhang Jiraiya couldn't help being said by Ye Chen. Ye Chen sighed deeply. Forget it. It's the same anyway. By the way, how do I apply for a stage challenge? I don't know this. Every time I come to Kyoto, I just come to see it out of curiosity and earn some pocket money by the way. Zhang Zilei said indifferently and suddenly reacted. You don't want to play, do you? Zhang Zilei's eyes widened. Ye Chen smiled. Brother Zilei understands me. No. Zhang Zilei blurted out. Although you are very strong, you can beat the mountain moving realm, but you can't beat the strong sea realm, right? Ye Chen smiled wickedly. How do you know I can't beat me? Chapter 60 Self-Awakening Zhang Zilei. Ye Chen's words instantly made Zhang Zilei stunned. Zhang Zilei couldn't help swallowing his saliva. Ye Chen, don't scare me. Can you really beat the sea level? Ye Chen raised his brows a few times and motioned for Zhang Zilei's ears to come closer. Zhang Zilei looked puzzled, but he still cooperated with him. Remember the great Buddha in Zhanghe City? Ye Chen said softly. Hey. Zhang Zilei took a deep breath and shivered all over, staring at Ye Chen with wide eyes. You mean that's also you made it? Ye Chen nodded slightly and Zhang Zilei was completely convinced. This time it was not just convincing, but convincing. But I don't plan to use the wooden dragon, Ye Chen said, taking out Raijin Jaka from the space ring and holding it in his hand. The meaning can be imagined. He wants to practice swords. Zhang Zilei was stunned. You don't need talent. Instead, you use a long knife. Ye Chen shook his head and said something that shocked Zhang Zilei for the rest of his life. No matter how strong the talent is, it's just talent. Ye Chen's whole body exuded confidence. Even if I'm strong enough to kill alien beasts with a wave of my hand, even if the swordsmanship I have learned is very strong, and I don't have enough combat experience, I'm not a real powerhouse. Zhang Zilei was stunned for a long time, unable to regain his senses. The strong. Zhang Zilei muttered to himself. Yes, strong. Talent is important, but your own combat experience is also very important, and even combat experience can make up for the gap in strength. Ye Chen looked at Zhang Zilei thoughtfully. This sentence also speaks to Zhang Zilei's own problems. Speaking of which, Zhang Zilei was also a self-awakened existence, and he broke into a realm that day. It's just that something happened later that made Zhang Zi come down. After Zhang Zilei stepped into the 5 realms, every time he absorbed the spiritual energy, if he failed to break the mirror, the next day, the spiritual energy he absorbed would disappear completely, including the spiritual energy he possessed in his body. Such days have continued until now, and Zhang Zilei did not give up at the beginning until his sister also woke up on her own. Zhang Zilei has completely changed. The younger sister did not appear in the same situation as him, but went smoothly all the way. The little sister's brilliance did not leave any trace of pride in Zhang Zilei's heart. This is also the reason why Zhang Daosheng would say that Zhang Zilei is worrying, because he is rotten. Cultivation time and time again. The spiritual energy that disappears for no reason again and again. Ye Chen didn't know about Zhang Zilei. If he knew, he probably wouldn't have stood up and shouted, "Isn't this a proper protagonist template?" But whoever it is, will his mentality collapse a bit, right? It seems that your PPT is almost finished, and the computer is shut down. Before it is saved point, it's as if you were about to win every game promotion match, your teammates surrendered, and you were the only one who refused point. Zhang Zilei was silent. Ye Chen smiled. Brother Zilei, a strong heart is really strong. Before that, Lao Zhang also said to me, you are so angry with just a few casualties? What if it was the front line? Countless human races rushed to kill alien beasts, killing and wounding countless human races like that. Do you have to be directly angry? Revised from chapter 22. Didn't I say that Lao Zhang wants to become strong and poisonous? I changed it, and changed it to Zhang Dao Sheng scolding Ye Chen for being soft-hearted. Ye Chen saw that Zhang Zilei didn't speak and stood up silently, leaving Zhang Zilei to think about life alone. The knot still needs to be solved by itself. When I walked to the elevator, I happened to meet the bartender who brought people down. Ye Chen said, it's really good. You don't have to ask people everywhere. Brother, I want to participate in that fighting arena. How do I need to participate? Ye Chen squinted his eyes and smiled. You? The bartender asked in surprise. I don't have time to play with you. The bartender turned around and left. Ye Chen's age is too young. He looks no more than 20 years old. Even if he is 20 years old and awakened for 2 years, how strong can he be? Ye Chen reached out and grabbed the bartender's shoulder. I'm serious, brother. The bartender didn't care about Ye Chen's actions at all and was about to push his hand away and leave. But he was suddenly stunned. Ye Chen obviously didn't use much strength, but he couldn't let go of his hand. No matter what. The bartender narrowed his eyes, half smile. It seems that I underestimated you. Are you sure you want to participate? Ye Chen nodded. Then come with me. The bartender sneered and led Ye Chen towards the backstage of the fighting arena. It is not the first time that young people like Ye Chen have come to court for death over the years. Young people with a little strength start to float. The bartender took Ye Chen into a dark room. This guy, sign up. Then he turned and left without any hesitation. Name? Ye Chen froze for a moment. Hashirama, age 18. The registered person frowned when he heard the words, raised his head, and looked at Ye Chen. Talent: the fire attribute longsword. The realm awakened 7 realms. You can write 8 realms. Anyway, you will break through immediately. Ye Chen spoke indifferently. Okay, registered. The registration staff filled in the information into the computer and then took out a sign from a box behind him that was similar to the hand that entered the field earlier and handed it to Ye Chen. This is your number plate. Ye Chen took the number plate. 14,250. It's not 9527. Bad review. Then, when can I start fighting? Ye Chen asked curiously. The registration officer rolled his eyes at Ye Chen. I didn't understand the rules, so I came to die. Tap the number card and a registration button will naturally appear. As for who to play with, it depends on your luck. Ye Chen had the strength to awaken the 7 realms at the age of 18, which naturally surprised the ranks, but it is only surprising. After all, no matter how good the talent is, the path is chosen by oneself. No one is to blame for being beaten to death in the fighting arena. Ye Chen glanced at the cards in his hand and said softly, thank you. Turn away. The registrar was a little stunned, shook his head, and muttered, weird. When Ye Chen returned to his seat, Zhang Zilei was still thinking about life. Ye Chen was helpless, and the man was stunned. It's not easy for Zhang after so many years. I'm back to my senses. Ye Chen patted Zhang Zilei's shoulder. Zhang Zilei looked up at Ye Chen without speaking. Ye Chen looked at Zhang Zilei and always felt that something had changed. The original Zhang Zilei was gloomy. He wore glasses all day. He didn't laugh, and he didn't like to talk too much. Ye Chen was completely shocked. Could it be that I also have a mouth escape? Did I say he woke up wrong? Ye Chen scratched his cheeks and sat back in his seat to watch the fight. Originally, Ye Chen planned to fight now, but his current reputation is a bit high. There are thousands of people in the entire fighting arena, but 1 or 2 of them can't help but recognize themselves. So Ye Chen plans to buy a mask and fight again tomorrow. Anyway, there are still 13 days before the college entrance examination, so he is not in a hurry at all. Chapter 61 as Zhang Zilai and -039, S talent IT and -039, S really miserable. Seeing that Zhang Zilai didn't speak, Ye Chen didn't make fun of himself. Instead, keep watching the fight on the fighting arena. The information that can be obtained from the fighters' hand cards is registration and withdrawal. Signing up is easy, just click, but withdrawing from the competition is more difficult. To take 1/2 of the entire bet on this game. And regardless of winning or losing. For example, the blue side bets 100 million, and the red side bets 50 million. Then, if you retire from the competition, you will have to pay 75 million, and 1/2 of the 7,550 will be compensated to the bettors, and the rest will be compensated to the underground fighting arena. It can be said that almost no one can retire here successfully. Because those real sons bets start at 100 million yuan. After all, 1,000 spirit stones are worth 100 million yuan. Ye Chen shook his head with a wry smile. The front line was in a hurry, while the interior was eating, drinking and having fun. The arena is open from 6 o'clock in the afternoon until 2 in the morning. 34 battles, large and small, were fought. The fast pace made Ye Chen a little stunned. But Ye Chen quickly reacted. After all, in this place, if you don't use all your strength, you will die, right? The two watch the fight until the finale. Dear viewers, that's the end of today's show. See you at 18 o'clock tomorrow evening. A young man in a black dress came up and bowed to everyone with a hippie smile. A group of people behind them hurriedly came to the stage to clean up the fighting arena. As the lights of the entire fighting field dimmed, everyone lined up to leave in an orderly manner. In this place, no one dares to be presumptuous, because this is a fighting field jointly created by several big families in Kyoto. When the two returned to the villa, the original cleaning company had cleaned up and left. Zhang Zilai found a key under the blanket at the villa's entrance. After entering the door, Zhang Zilai looked at Ye Chen and asked suddenly, "You can't tell my dad about the fact that I took you to the fighting arena today, understood? I will promise you, when I go out, it's there. I can't say it anyway." Zhang Zilai glared at Ye Chen. Okay. Ye Chen is very helpless. Brother Zilai was pinched by Liu Zhang. Then he turned around and found a room and walked in. Zhang Zilai also breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Ye Chen's assurance. But he thought about one thing wrong. Ye Chen really didn't say it. But Zhang Daosheng just knew it. It's catching a train again, killing alien beasts, and going to the fighting arena. The schedule for this day is full, and Ye Chen's spirit is also a little tired. I didn't take a shower. I lay down and started to sleep soundly. By the way, I broke through the realm in my sleep. Awakened 8 realms. Sure enough, awesome people are breaking through the realm when they sleep. And Zhang Zilai heard the sound of the shackles breaking through in the next room in the middle of the night. At that moment, the only trace of self-esteem left in my heart disappeared. Ye Chen has such a strong talent that he is still cultivating at this point when he gets home. But me, the first time it turned out to be rotten sleep. Zhang Zilai was ashamed. Stay up all night. He never dreamed that Ye Chen broke through while sleeping, but fortunately, I don't know, otherwise I'd be so angry that the amount of vomiting blood is comparable to the amount of blood donated. Zhang Zilai, who stayed up all night, was already doubting his life in the living room at 7 o'clock. During this period, I ate 3 big meat buns and drank 2 cups of soy milk, but I still couldn't figure out where my talent was wrong. Zhang Zilai opened his palm, and a fiery red light illuminated the not so bright living room. Ye Chen happened to finish washing up and walked out of the room. In an instant, the fiery red came into view. A hairless bird appeared in Zhang Zilai's hands, as if it were dead, and Ye Chen could see it clearly. Zhang Zilai panicked and immediately put away his talent. Phoenix? Ye Chen blurted out. Zhang Zilai said bitterly, "It's just a hairless bird." A sense of humiliation welled up in Zhang Zilai's heart. Since he woke up voluntarily, he should have been in the sky, but he did not expect that the hairless bird in his hand still did not improve day by day. Zhang Zilai fell into the abyss in this high-profile position, and the huge gap made him fall into despair when his sister stepped on him to take the place that should belong to him. Ye Chen stepped forward and whispered, "Brother Zilai, can you show me again?" Zhang Z looked at Ye Chen's serious look and reluctantly opened his palm again. Ye Chen stared at the hairless bird in his hand. Brother Zilei, what kind of attributes are you? Ice type. Zhang Zilei blurted out. Ye Chen was silent for a while. Have you ever thought you were picked by Liao Zhang? What did you say? Zhang Zilei suspected that he had heard it wrong, and his eyes widened instantly. Cough. Have you ever thought that maybe you are from the fire element? Ye Chen hurriedly coughed twice and covered up the past. Ye Chen comforted himself silently in his heart. Good guy. Just said what was in his heart. Scared to death. Zhang Zilei took a deep look at Ye Chen. If I hadn't been able to beat you, I would have killed you right now. My dad is of the ice type. My mother is a crane of the water type. How could I be of the fire type? When Zhang Zi said about his mother, he suddenly paused. Ye Chen was stunned. But hasn't the phoenix always respected the fire element? Although the ice element has become alienated in terms of different types, the fire element phoenix is definitely stronger than the ice element. Zhang Zilei was stunned by this sentence. It's not that I didn't suspect this issue, but every time I put it next to the flame, it didn't move. But when I put it next to the ice cube, it starts to move. Huh. Ye Chen was stunned. Could it be that he is really from the ice type? Then Zhang Zilei cooperated and took out an ice cube from the refrigerator and placed it beside the hairless bird, close to the body point. Sure enough, the hairless bird started to react instantly. Ye Chen's eyes widened and the whole person was extremely shocked. You call this a reaction? Ye Chen was dumbfounded. This motherfucking cry is so shivering. No reaction. Quickly throw away the ice cubes on the hairless bird. Really? I always thought he was excited. Zhang Zilei frowned and glanced at the hairless bird. Ye Chen was dumbfounded, looking at the bird in Zhang Zilei's hand with a pitiful look. After so many years, I've suffered for you. After Ye Chen confirmed that the hairless bird was not of ice type, Zhang Zilei had some confidence in Ye Chen. Then Zhang Zilei took out a lighter and roasted the hairless bird on the fire. Ye Chen took a deep breath. Have you ever thought that, if it wasn't a fire element, would you be able to eat roasted birds? Zhang Zilei blinked. No, hairless bird. It's not a sin for a bird to cry. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Demolition. Ye Chen can't stand it anymore. You family, too weird, right? A saint. One is stuck in the inverted sea state, and the other is stuck in the awakening state. An ice system and a water system give birth to an unknown system. Ye Chen said. I have a big head. Looking at the bird in Zhang Zilei's hand, Ye Chen pondered for a while. You said, is there a possibility? Ye Chen touched his chin and said hesitantly. Zhang Zilei was very much looking forward to what Ye Chen wanted to say. Speak quickly. Is there a possibility that this fire is too small? Ye Chen said, pointing to the lighter in Zhang Zilei's hand. The two looked at each other and the scene was awkward for a while. It's a little small indeed. Zhang Zilei frowned. I'll go to the kitchen to turn on the gas stove. He turned around and walked towards the kitchen. Ye Chen was stunned. Went to the kitchen? Take the fire talent? Do you think your talent is food? The moment Ye Chen walked in the door, he saw Zhang Zilei put the hairless bird on a spoon and then roasted him on the gas stove. Ye Chen covered his face with a wry smile and suddenly felt a little distressed about the bird. After a while, Zhang Zilei suddenly shouted, there is movement. Ye Chen looked up and saw the bird shaking violently in the flames. Ye Chen, why do I feel like it's going to be burnt? Zhang Zilei was a little confused. I think it's much more normal than when it's next to an ice cube. Ye Chen said solemnly and then asked back, by the way, haven't you tried using fire before? I have thought about it, but my dad disagrees. The beast type talent has its own consciousness. If the consciousness is destroyed, the talent will become weaker. Zhang Zilei recalled Zhang Daosheng's words and said. Ye Chen suddenly smiled wickedly. Brother Zilei, do you want let me add some fire to you? After Ye Chen finished speaking, he grabbed Dry Jinjaka in his waist with his backhand. What do you want to do? Zhang Zilei looked at Ye Chen, his scalp suddenly tingling. Ye Chen pulled out Raijin Jacka, carried it on his shoulders, and walked towards Zhang Zilei step by step. I don't want to do anything, believe me, brother Zilei. Zhang Zilei was shivering and could only follow Ye Chen point after a fascinated operation. Ye Chen roared, everything is ashes, or la ashes. Raijin Jacka. Raijin Jacka's blade instantly burst into a raging flame, and Ye Chen threw Zhang Zilei, who hadn't reacted yet, out of the kitchen. He grabbed the bird from his hand. Song. Ming. Ye Chen swung the knife down. Boom. Bang. In an instant, a flame shot up into the sky. The entire kitchen exploded in an instant. Along with the gas stove. A pillar of fire runs through the entire 3-story villa. The sound of the huge flame pillar was deafening, and what was even more outrageous was the sound of the explosion of the gas stove behind. The teenager who lived next to them was awakened by the sound, and walked to the window cursing. Crap. Early in the morning. Who? Demolition? I saw him pulling the curtains open. What caught my eye was a pillar of fire that was dozens of meters high. Damn. It's really fucking demolishing the house. He quickly closed the curtains, turned on the phone, and called the police immediately. Hey, the defense team? I'm on the East 2nd Ring Road. My neighbor's house was bombed. Exploded. Yes. A flame is dozens of meters high. It exploded into the sky. Children, we are very busy and don't have time to play with you. Then the call was hung up, leaving the child next door stunned. And the bird in the flames with Raijin Jacka was unscathed. You must know that the flames released by Raijin Jacka are nearly 6,000 degrees high. But Zhang Zilei's talent is still intact. Ye Chen's eyes lit up. The bet was right. I saw that the bird, which was originally dead silent, slowly opened its eyes under the absolute temperature. Zhang Zilei looked at his bird and opened his eyes, and he couldn't hold back in an instant. 25 years. Zhang Zilei knelt on the ground with a plop. Tears flowed straight out and couldn't stop. A 30-year-old man cried like a child. But Ye Chen didn't laugh at him, but looked at the bird intently. I saw that the bird flapped its wings a few times and then opened its mouth suddenly, swallowing the entire flame of the fire column into its stomach. This time, it was Ye Chen's turn to be shocked. Is it so edible? Then the light on the bird bloomed wildly. Compared with the previous fiery red light, this time the flame seems to be more bright red. The light on the bird became stronger and stronger, and then it turned into an egg. Zhang Zilei walked into the dilapidated kitchen with a bewildered face and reached out to hold up the egg that was floating in the air. Is it the Phoenix Nirvana? Zhang Zilei shook his head. I don't know either. Ye Chen put Raijin Jacka away and pondered for a while. If I'm not mistaken, your attribute is fire element. As for why it is fire element, I don't know. But I have confirmed one thing. This phoenix is about to die after awakening his talent. It should be an old man. The attributes of Zhang and his aunt are inherited, making this phoenix malnourished. Ye Chen is talking nonsense in a serious manner. Zhang Zilei listened to Ye Chen's nonsense seriously and even nodded and said, so it is. Ye Chen's eyes twitched twice, and he was speechless for a while. Do you believe what I say? Then, what should I do now? Zhang Zilei said, while holding his bird's egg. I don't know, maybe hatching eggs. Well, I think this might not be right for me. Zhang Zilei felt bad when he heard Ye Chen's words, and suddenly his eyes brightened. But since the problem of talent has been solved, can I cultivate well? After saying this, before Ye Chen could say anything, Zhang Zilei quickly ran towards the room with his egg in his arms. However, Ye Chen looked around at the surroundings and looked up at the ceiling. Well, the weather is really nice today, Ye Chen said suddenly. Wait, what about the ceiling? After a long wait of 2 hours, the renovation workers came to the villa. Looking at the dark floor in front of him, the entire kitchen was like ruins. Looking up, there is no trace of the ceiling. Master, take a look. How much will this repair cost? Ye Chen pointed to the ceiling and said. The leading boss took a deep breath, took out a cigarette, and handed it to Ye Chen. Ye Chen waved his hand. I don't smoke. The old master glanced at Ye Chen and put the cigarette into his mouth. Pulling out a lighter and lighting it. Mimili took a puff of cigarette. Said earnestly, little brother, can you tell me how you made your ceiling move? I don't need to charge. Ye Chen was dumbfounded. pulled out Raijin and instantly shook a point. A pillar of fire rose again in the kitchen. The kid next door was shocked. Damn it. Ruthless man. Come again. Ye Chen put the knife back. Master, it's free. Chapter 63. The Three Golden Legend. Ye Chen's first-hand operation is over. The old master's smoking hand trembled and trembled, and he put it into his mouth and took another sip, watching Ye Chen's back as he turned and left. Silently let the workers behind them get busy. Since it is said to be free, then you can't break your promise, as the saying goes. Well, actually frightened by Ye Chen, he swung a knife, just a knife. It's not that people who live in Kyoto will be stronger. In fact, there are still many people with poor talent. When you see a strong person, you must be respected and afraid. Who knows if you have any strange hobbies? Ye Chen ordered a takeaway, patted his stomach a little, and then went back to his room to practice. Ye Chen didn't stop practicing until the system's prompt sounded in the afternoon. I heard you want a mask. Do you want the Arrancar mask and Shinigami? Ye Chen opened his eyes and smiled. You still don't admit that you are a system. Rewards have been issued by seeing the system leave. Ye Chen was happy. The system was so interesting. But what surprised Ye Chen was that this mask was actually a golden ball. This is a bit interesting. After all, Hashirama's wood style and the old man's Raijin, both of which are golden level. Can't this mask still have its own power of emptiness? Right. Ye Chen silently squeezed the golden ball, and a jet black airflow poured into his body. That airflow merged with Ye Chen's spiritual power, and Ye Chen felt that power. It's really the power of emptiness. Ye Chen was already numb. With such a good system, what else can I complain about? Ye Chen thought for a while, and according to the original book, Kurosaki Ichigo's gesture slowly pulled from the hairline to the chin. A red and white mask appeared on his face. Ye Chen immediately sensed something was wrong. My power, his power skyrocketed in an instant. Ye Chen stood up and rushed forward. Bang! Ye Chen didn't stop the car. The whole wall was hit by this, and a big hole was directly knocked out. Not only strength, but also speed and defense. This power, like the magic energy, can be used at any time. The difference is that the energy of immortality is kept in a bead in Ye Chen's mind, and the power of emptiness is indeed hidden in Ye Chen's heart. Once I put on the mask, I became so much stronger. How can I sharpen my combat experience? Ye Chen was speechless. Too strong is not a good thing. The power of void retracted in his heart, and the mask on Ye Chen's face disappeared. Ye Chen walked out the door. The decorator was hearing a loud noise and thought it was something downstairs. He kept running downstairs and happened to meet Ye Chen. The old master came just in time, and my wall also needs to be repaired. Ye Chen pointed to the huge hole in the room and said. The old master looked confused. Little brother, I'm very curious about how you did it. Do you want me to demonstrate it again? Ye Chen raised his hand excitedly and was about to use his virtual power. The old master took a deep breath and said calmly, young man, tell me honestly, is this villa yours? No. Ye Chen looked confused. One of my elders bought it. Hearing this sentence, the old master suddenly realized and patted Ye Chen on the shoulder solemnly. Young man, if you don't have a place to go in the future, come to me. Food and shelter. You just need to be responsible for tearing down the house. After saying this, he turned around and left, leaving Ye Chen inexplicably alone. It's dinner time again. What to eat today? Ye Chen looked up at the clock on the wall. Clapped both hands. Right. You can eat that, then. Ye Chen took out a huge pig leg from the space ring. As soon as a pig's leg appeared, the workers next to it were instantly stunned. How is it? Haven't you seen it before? Ye Chen carried the pig's leg of the mountain boar and walked towards the yard. At the same time, the children next door were peeping Ye Chen in the dark. This guy looks about the same age as me. Why does he have that hobby of tearing down homes? Until Ye Chen took out the huge pork leg, his eyes instantly lit up, shaking the pig's leg. Saliva flowed from the corner of his mouth instantly. Pidian ran towards Ye Chen. Ye Chen is hesitating how to cook this huge pork leg. He heard a loud shout from beside him. Big brother. Ye Chen was stunned, looked up, and saw an angry fat man in a white shirt and white shorts running towards him. Ye Chen looked at the panting fat man who stopped in front of him. Do We know each other. G. Ziodo stabilized his body and calmed his breathing. To be honest, brother, I saw your house-breaking skills today, and I admire it very much. When did I tear down my house? Ye Chen didn't know why. The workers who were working on the side heard it and couldn't help but have black lines all over their heads. Ye Chen's words can't straighten Ji Ziodo directly. You don't play cards according to the routine. Yeah, big brother, that's not tearing down the house, that's simply art. Ji Ziodo saw that plan A was useless and instantly turned into plan B. Ye Chen had a weird face. I blow up the kitchen. You say this is art? That's not right. That flame makes my heart itch. It's so handsome. Ji Ziodo didn't notice the change in Ye Chen's face and continued to tout it. I think there is a guy who should be very compatible with you. Ye Chen sighed. Oh, who? His name is Dedera, an artist. Oh, next time eldest brother has a chance, you can bring me to know him. Well, Ye Chen's whole body is not well. I saw Ji Ziodo suddenly shift the target. Brother, you are preparing. Oh, you said this. I'm going to roast the pork leg, but I don't know how to do it. Ye Chen patted the huge pork leg beside him. The whole pig leg is more than 1 meter high when laid flat on the ground. Big brother can't cook. Ji Ziodo's eyes lit up, and the opportunity came. He patted his chest on the spot. This matter is covered by me. Isn't it just cooking? Simple. You can cook. Ye Chen looked at Ji Ziodo in surprise. No. Ji Ziodo blurted out. Ye Chen was about to roar, but my chef will. Ji Ziodo said with a smile. He immediately took out his phone from his pocket. Hey, that Uncle Wu, come over now, I'm hungry. Then he turned to look at Ye Chen and patted his strong body again. Brother, it's done. Let me tell you, my Uncle Wu's cooking is delicious. Ye Chen finally figured out what the purpose of this little fat man was. Emotions are directed at pig legs, but Ye Chen didn't say anything, let alone this pork leg. He couldn't finish eating 10 more. That's okay. I'll have a bite later. After getting this satisfactory answer, Ji Ziodo showed a Nand-like smile. Chapter 64 H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Rich 7 Generation Ji Ziodo. Ye Chen and Ji Ziodo got to know each other inexplicably. By the way, brother, are you new to Kyoto? I've lived here for so many years, and this is the first time I've seen you. Ji Ziodo put his eyes on the pig's leg, but looked at Ye Chen and said. Ye Chen smiled. Call me Ye Chen. I really just came to Kyoto. I just arrived by train yesterday. Ye Chen didn't hide his whereabouts. What's there to hide, brother? Ye is a good name. Unlike me, Ji Ziodo, my dad was forced to resign because of performance issues, and then he gave me such an inexplicable name with a lot of performance. Ji Ziodo tilted his head and sighed helplessly. Ye Chen was stunned for a moment. This kid is really familiar. Actually, I think the name is good. I met a guy named Deng Shizhang before, and now I think about it, isn't it the chairman? Ye Chen shook his head and said with a smile, haha, few people say my name is nice. In fact, I also think my name is nice. Ji Ziodo found a chair beside Ye Chen and sat on it without feeling embarrassed. Brother, you just came to Kyoto, so you probably haven't heard about the arrogant boy and the dragon, right? Ji Ziodo said excitedly. I tell you, that boy is handsome, and the strength of awakening realm brings him with him. The dragon that moved towards the mountain shaking bull went to the mountain. When Ye Chen heard this, he looked at Ji Ziodo with a confused look on his face. Ye Chen didn't know how to explain for a moment. Yes, that guy wore the same clothes as you that day, all black, with a long knife hanging from his waist. Ji Ziodo said more and more vigorously. But he immediately noticed something was wrong, and with a shocked face, he turned to look at Ye Chen. Ji Ziodo narrowed his eyes and looked at Ye Chen carefully. Brother Ye, I always think you look like him. After looking around, Ji Ziodo came up with a sentence that made Ye Chen speechless for a moment. Why not me? Ye Chen asked jokingly. Ji Ziodo looked at the pig's trotter beside him thoughtfully. Well, the pig's trotter that shakes the mountain. Well, boy with a knife. Well, there is only one truth. Brother Ye, are you a teenager in COS? Ye Chen is stunned. What are you holding in your head? I'd love to open it up and take a look. Okay. Seeing that Ji Ziodo's illness might be a bit serious, Ye Chen smiled bitterly and stopped talking. Okay, brother Ye, I'm teasing you. Of course I know that you are that boy. Ji Ziodo said with a wicked smile. Ye Chen is not happy this time. I have always been the only one who was funny, but I was actually teased today. You're dead. I said, Jesus couldn't keep you. You are so smart, Ye Chen said with narrowed eyes. Ji Ziodo didn't hear a different taste from the words and continued to chat with Ye Chen a lot. It was not until half an hour later that Uncle Wu, called by Ji Ziodo, finally arrived. The one who came was also a big fat man with dark circles under his eyes. At first glance, he ate well, but he didn't sleep well. Who knows what he did last night? As soon as I entered the yard and looked at the huge pig leg, my eyes opened instantly. This is shaking the mountain pig's pork leg. Wu Zong's saliva couldn't stop in an instant. Ye Chen was speechless. Good guy looked at Wu Zong and Ji Ziodo. When the two saw the Shanshan pig's leg, they had the exact same expression and thought they were brothers or something. Uncle Wu, how's it going? Isn't the ingredients great this time? Ji Ziodo stepped forward and took Wu Zong's shoulder. Wu Zong swallowed. Such good ingredients. I can definitely make a perfect meal. What to do? You still have to listen to my brother Ye. Ji Ziodo pointed to Ye Chen, who was standing beside him. Wu Zong was stunned for a moment. Why did he leave at night? And a brother Ye appeared inexplicably. It's okay. You're a chef. You can just watch and do it. After all, I'm only responsible for eating. Ye Chen smiled. And by the way, he threw the cut off front leg in the ring aside. Wu Zongson almost knelt down to Ye Chen on the spot, shaking the boar. The meat of this thing is expensive. Ye Chen was puzzled. Wu Zong continued. After the recovery of the spiritual energy, the pigs seem to have a new passive, and the meat becomes more tender and fragrant. That's why a wild beast like the mountain boar, even if its defense is super strong, has not been able to escape the slaughter of desire. When Ye Chen heard Wu Zong's words, his mind instantly crashed. Fuck, if you say that, I'm at a loss. That whole boar. I'll bring back a pig's foot. Ji Ziodo slammed his chest when he heard the words. My heart hurts. My heart hurts. I can't put down my storage ring. Ye Chen said angrily. Wu Zong smiled bitterly when he heard the words and turned to process the ingredients. What kind of garbage ring? Can't even fit a pig? Ji Ziodo stood up and cursed angrily. Ye Chen's face was strange. How do you feel? You are more excited than me. Ji Ziodo then realized that he had lost his temper. Cough. Sorry. Then he sat down and took out another ring from the ring. Brother Ye, this ring is my brother's honor. Ye Chen, where am I? Who I am? What am I doing? Is it popular to give rings as soon as you meet them? Hurry up. This is the second best ring in my hand. There are not many others. There are definitely 200 cubic meters. Ji Ziodo took Ye Chen's hand and put the ring on Ye Chen's hand. How much? How much? Ye Chen was stunned. It's only 200 cubic meters. Next time, I'll give brother Ye the whole 1,000. But if brother Ye has any delicious ingredients next time, remember to contact me. Ji Ziodo said indifferently, as if to him, the 200 cubic meters of rings were completely worthless. Ye Chen suddenly felt the copper stench of the rich second generation coming towards him. You, rich second generation. Really rich? Ye Chen said with emotion. I'm not the rich second generation. Ji Ziodo said blankly. My wife and grandfather are the rich second generation, and I'm rich. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the rich 7th generation. Ye Chen sucked in a breath of cold air. You just think I didn't say it. Ye Chen's whole body was bad. The layout is small. Since our family awakened the talent for space, the space ring industry has been taken care of by our Ji family. Like the ring in brother Ye's hand, it's not expensive, only a few billions. Ji Xiaodo spoke indifferently again. Ye Chen didn't want to talk to him anymore. But Xiaodo was secretly overjoyed. With such a strong talent as Ye Chen, of course he has to hold his thighs. What if I can call myself a brother to a saint in the future? A mere space ring gained Ye Chen's favor and made a lot of money, right? PS. Sorry to keep you all waiting. I forgot to set a timed chapter today. I'm coding like crazy. There are 2 more chapters later, and 2 more chapters will be published at 12 o'clock in the evening. Thank you for your support. Chapter 65. On the other hand, Wu Zhang simply finished processing the ingredients he waved in front of him with his chubby arm. A huge stove appeared in the original open space in an instant. An entire ancient style kitchen appeared in an instant. Ye Chen was stunned. Xiaodo said with a smile, "How is it, Brother Ye? My uncle Wu's talent is rare, right? And such a talent? It's really rare. Don't underestimate my uncle Wu's talent as the stove. My uncle Wu is very good at cooking. With the addition of this stove, the delicious food becomes even more delicious." Xiaodo was talking, and his saliva was about to flow down. Ye Chen nodded, looking forward to it. By the way, Brother Ye, what are you doing in Kyoto? Xiaodo immediately posted it when Ye Chen didn't speak. Ye Chen said, "I finally met a guy who is more talkative than me, and I'm a little unaccustomed to it. Come to the test exam. College entrance exam." Xiaodo exclaimed, "Fuck, Brother Ye is the same age as me, and I'm just 18. Ye Chen looked at Xiaodo with a weird face. "Why are you so excited?" "No, Brother Ye. I just thought, do you have a team for the college entrance examination? Can you add me?" Xiaodo smirked. "There is already a team." After Ye Chen said this, he saw Xiaodo just about to speak. He quickly added, "The team is full. That's it. Okay." Xiaodo's face was lost. There was already a strong fragrance from Wu Zhang, and even Zhang Jiraiya, who was cultivating in the room, could smell the fragrance. Holding his bird's egg, he walked downstairs. "Ye Chen, what are you doing? So fragrant, isn't this a pig's leg cut before? It would be a waste if you don't eat it." Ye Chen pointed in Wu Zhang's direction. Zhang Zilei looked at Xiaodo and Wu Zhang, and some did not react. By the way, these two are, oh, that is Xiaodo. One is from the 7th generation, and the other is Wu Zhang, the chef brought by Xiaodo. Ye Chen thought for a while, but did not call him uncle like Xiaodo. "Zhao. Duo, this is my brother, Zhang Zilei." Ye Chen briefly introduced it. Xiaodo saw the egg the size of a human head in Zhang Zilei's arms, and his eyes were instantly straight. Walking in front of Zhang Zilei, he stretched out his hand and said, "Brother Zilei, it's so late to meet you. I didn't expect you to like eggs too. You're too polite, and you brought such a big egg on purpose." "Zhang Zilei, are you polite? A certain egg, polite to you? This is my talent," Zhang Zilei said, after holding back for a long time. Ye Chen on the side was already laughing madly. In the past, Xiang Yu and Wu Jiang committed suicide, but now there is Xiao Duo who is looking at the egg. Xiaodo looked at Zhang Zilei's face, and the whole person was instantly embarrassed. He turned his head and looked at Ye Chen with a resentful expression. Ye Chen shrugged. "Do you blame me?" Ye Chen said, "I can't always point to Zhang Zilei's egg every time I see someone and say, this is his talent, right?" I saw Xiaodo move the thumb of his left hand, and a ring appeared in his hand. "Brother Zilei, misunderstanding. I didn't expect this egg to be a talent. My fault. This ring will be treated as a welcome gift for my younger brother. I will apologize to you." Ye Chen was stunned. "Dare you really addicted to giving rings?" Before Zhang Zilei could react, a space ring appeared in his hand. "Do you like giving rings?" Zhang Zilei said again. Xiaodo looked calm. "Yes, our G family has nothing else. There are many space rings." Zhang Zilei suddenly realized, oh, the G family of Saint Ji Kai and Meng is like thunder. That's right, Ji Kai and Meng is my wife and grandfather. Ye Chen sighed helplessly. "It's so fucking rich, 7th generation. However, the name Ji Qian Meng did remind Ye Chen of the semi-holy beast point at that time. The West Wind Lion King said that the life of the semi-holy beast is too powerful and it can only be eliminated unless it is completely destroyed point, and Ji Qian Meng was very strong at the time, but he hadn't been able to kill him in an instant without leaving any scum point. That's why he was forced to seal the semi-holy beast under the sea. The world is really small. Fate. Ye Chen shook his head and muttered. Ji Xiaodo looked back at Ye Chen. Ah. Brother Ye, what did you say? Fine. Ye Chen took out his phone and glanced at the time. It was after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There was still an hour and a half before 6 o'clock. After dinner, I rushed to the fighting arena. The time was almost just right. Half an hour later, Ye Chen also learned more about Ji Xiaodo. For example, the current president of Kyoto University is his grandfather, but he just doesn't deal with his grandfather. The grandfathers and grandchildren of other people's families are relatives of different generations, so their family is more strange. There is no reason. It is simply because Ji Xiaodo's father was rebellious, and then a more rebellious one was born. But both of them were against Ji Huaxiang. This gave Ji Huaxiang a headache to death. When Wu Vice Admiral's dish was served, Ye Chen didn't have the heart to listen to Ji Xiaodo talking about him. Of course, Ji Xiaodo didn't even bother to talk to Ye Chen. Wu, chef, sit down and eat together. Ye Chen almost blurted out with Ji Xiaodo and called Uncle Wu. Ye Chen didn't want to have an uncle for no reason, so after thinking about it, he could only call Wu chef. Wu Zhang didn't mind. After all, he had known Ji Xiaodo for many years before being called uncle. Okay, you eat first. CK sweats. Wu Zhang responded with a smile. The dishes of a table are served at the same time. It can be seen that Wu Zhang's control of the heat is absolutely first class, otherwise it is impossible for so many dishes to be served hot. The pig's leg and trotters were braised, the shank was charcoal grilled, and the thigh was made into a large table of dishes. It looks very appetizing. Don't ask why you have appetite. Because I made it up. After all, I haven't eaten it to write myself hungry. After a full meal, Ye Chen touched his stomach and said, "It's almost time. I have to go to the fighting arena." Zhang Zile looked at Ye Chen, and this time he didn't stop him anymore. "Let's go together. I'm so boring to stay here." "Fighting arena? Let's go together," Ji Xiaodo said enthusiastically. "Usually, apart from practicing, eating, and sleeping, all I have to do is go to the fighting arena to gamble." Ye Chen was a little speechless. The life of a rich person is so simple and unpretentious. "Then, let's go. I'm going to hit 10 today." Ye Chen raised the corner of his mouth, confidence pouring out of his heart. Ye Chen is also a little curious about this fat man, the younger generation of the space sages, but he doesn't deal with his elders, but he is very generous. No, is this lavish? It's fucking rich and billions of dollars. Chapter 66 Autistic Ji Xiaodo. Along the way, Ji Xiaodo and Ye Chen chatted a lot. "Brother Ye, why did you think of coming to the fighting arena?" Ji Xiaodo looked curious. "Because I want to be stronger, but I think you're already very strong. It's not enough." Ye Chen remembered the semi-sage in Zhanghai City, and that Zhang Daosheng's daughter was also a saint. Looking at Ji Xiaodo again, his ancestor also had the existence of a saint. In an instant, I feel that the world is very small, and you can meet related households in 2 steps. The awakening realm can kill the shaking boar in the mountain realm. Isn't it strong enough? Ji Xiaodo was speechless. "I woke up on my own at the age of 8, and it's been 10 years now, and I've only just entered the realm of moving mountains." "Brother Ye, at what age did you wake up?" Ji Xiaodo suddenly asked curiously after saying that he had been awakened for 10 years. Zhang Zile and Ye Chen had strange faces. "I think it's best if you don't know," Zhang Zile reminded kindly. "Why?" Ji Xiaodo still didn't know the seriousness of the matter. "Could it be that Brother Yi was the one who was awakened from birth?" "No, but I thought Brother Yi was a god tier who was awakened from birth." "It hasn't been half a month since he woke up," Zhang Zile said silently. "Well, to be precise, he woke up on the day of his awakening." Wu Zhang and Ji Xiaodo, who were driving, went blank for a moment. "Brother Zile, what did you just say?" Jizaido said tremblingly. I may have just not heard clearly. Wu Zhang didn't speak. He swallowed and continued to drive. Point. These people cannot be treated as normal people. Ye Chen was helpless. I can't help you if you don't believe me, but I just woke up not long ago. Jizaido instantly lost the ability to think. Brother Yi, what do you mean? I have practiced in dogs for the past 10 years. When Zhang Zilei heard Jizaido's words, he also smiled bitterly. It's not just you. I woke up on my own at the age of 6, and I have practiced on dogs for 25 years. Self-awakened at the age of 6. Surnamed Zhang. Big brother of Saint Ice Phoenix. Jizaido swears that he has never been refreshed again and again in his life like today. I knew. Zhang Zilei said with a wry smile. Once you talk about the 6-year-old awakening, but the realm is stuck in the 3rd awakening. Someone will definitely know about me. Ye Chen patted Zhang Zilei on the shoulder. Brother Zilei, don't worry, Zaido shouldn't do it on purpose. And now that the problem of talent has been solved, maybe it will be faster to practice later. Zhang Zilei said nothing, nodded and looked at the egg in his arms. Brother Zilei, I just don't talk through my brain. Don't worry about it. Jizaido took out another ring from the ring. Point. Zhang Zilei's face was strange. Zaido, do you usually have a lot of friends? How do you know? Jizaido said proudly. It's not me, Jizaido, who I don't know in this entire Kyoto. When Ye Chen saw Jizaido and took out the ring from the ring, he couldn't bear to look directly and turned his head to the side. Come on, Brother Zilei, this ring is my apology. Ye Chen covered his face and laughed wildly. I knew. Even Zhang Zilei couldn't help laughing. No wonder there are so many friends. Zhang Zilei pushed back the ring in Jizaido's hand. I have already accepted the one before, shamelessly, and forget this one. Now, it's Jizaido's turn to be stunned. This is a bit wrong with the plot. I thought, under normal circumstances, you shouldn't accept it, and then say it's okay, it's not a big problem, etc. Seeing Jizaido's confused look, Ye Chen also found it very interesting. Point. But I didn't say much. This is Jizaido's own way of making friends, and it has nothing to do with him. Point. Whether his way of making friends will change in the future has nothing to do with him. It's here. Wu Zhang stopped the car and sent the three to the door of the bar yesterday. After Ye Chen and his party got off the bus, Wu Zhang went home. Point. After all, for Wu Zhang, he is just a chef. Although he earns a good amount of money, it is not enough to spend in such a place. Point. I came with Jizaido once before, and I was quite frightened by Jizaido's little gambling. Brother Yi, do you really want to go to the fighting arena? Jizaido confirmed again. This fighting arena has contestants from the seaside realm. There is even a starry realm. Ye Chen smiled. What are you afraid of? Can't you retire? Also, but I still believe in Brother Yi's strength. When Brother Yi fights, I will bet on Brother Yi to win. Okay, remember to give me points when you win. Ye Chen said indifferently. Point. But Jizaido kept it in his heart. It seems that tonight's fighting arena is destined to not be safe. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the host Rabab, and I'm very happy to meet you again. Welcome to the Kyoto fighting arena. Through the positioning of our fighting players' hand cards, there are more than 1,000 players entering the fighting arena tonight. It seems, tonight is destined to be a sleepless night. Rabas. Words became more and more vigorous, and the audience was full of people. Although Ye Chen has been here once, he is still a little uncomfortable. Brother Yi, Brother Zilei, come with me. Jizaido raised an eyebrow and took the two to an exclusive VIP room. TSK, there is such a thing. Zhang Zilei was a little overjoyed, walking in front of the huge glass, just so he could clearly see the battle under the stage. Point. God's perspective. Nothing more than this, right? Ye Chen also sighed. Sure enough, the life of the rich is so simple and unpretentious. How can there be basic operation? Basic operation. Jizaido said modestly. Ye Chen ignored it. turned around and took out the fighter's hand card and clicked the registration button with ease. When it comes to fighting rules, it's even more interesting. After a player has signed up, they cannot cancel the registration before the match. That is to say, as long as you click to sign up, you have to play a game before you can leave. Or you can only pay the price and retire before the battle. Another situation is that after winning a fight, a player chooses to defend the fight, and then until the leader gives up on his own. After he chooses to give up, he needs to fight another fight before he can step down safely. Ordinary game, you can get 1/1000th of the current wager, but the main match is different. Every time you win a match, you will accumulate a percentage of 1,000th point. For example, if you play 10 games, the accumulation of 10 games is 1%. The bet for 10 games is 10 billion, so you can get it for free. But if you happen to lose the 10th game, the accumulated percentage will be passed on to the new champion. These are all things Ye Chen learned when he got his hand yesterday. This is why Ye Chen is interested. I don't know. After I took the Aaron car, can these players break my steel skin? Chapter 67 The Influence of White Power on Mentality. Ye Chen left the VIP room and went to the backstage of the fighting arena to wait. Who will be the first to play today? Let's wait and see. The moment Rabba finished speaking, the big screen on the wall began to randomly select people, and the two targets were changing wildly. Then, two names appeared on the big screen. Yo, it seems that our old friend, Mr. Ozhan, is going to give us a first-hand performance today. After Abba saw Ozhan's name, his eyes lit up instantly. It seems that today's battle is interesting. Let's see who his opponent is. Rabba shouted, turning to look at the screen. Ozhan's opponent turned out to be a rookie. It seems interesting. Ozhan's opponent is Hashirama. Let's have two fighters on the field. Ye Chen under the stage was a little stunned. He had just entered the backstage, and he didn't even have time to get the mask out. And then he became the first to appear. But Ye Chen doesn't care. After all, his goal is the ring match. This is exactly what I want. From 1800 hours to 2 o'clock in the morning. In a total of 8 hours, can you complete a 100 game winning streak? Ye Chen was very curious. He waved his left hand towards his face, and a red and white mask appeared. Ye Chen's temperament has also changed greatly, becoming much darker, which is the effect of virtual power. But no matter how Ye Chen's temperament changed, Ji Xiaodo recognized Ye Chen the moment he saw Ye Chen. After all, that long knife is too conspicuous. When did Brother Yi wear the mask? I don't know. This kid is mysterious. Zhang Zilei said that he didn't know. After all, he only knew a little about Ye Chen. Have you ever seen a person who can use the Great Buddha be in existence in an awakened state? When Ye Chen said he still remembered the Zhanghe City Buddha, Zhang Zilei was almost suffocated. Right. Then Ye Chen showed his fire element ability. Although Zhang Daosheng had told Zhang Zi before that Ye Chen's fire element ability came from that long knife. But it is obvious that the ability of this long knife is not ordinary. After all, Ye Chen has no second talent, and the ability of the flame can actually make the phoenix who is on the verge of death nirvana. Definitely not an ordinary ability. Zhang Zilei looked at Ye Chen now. Ye Chen's body seemed to be filled with mist, and he couldn't see anything clearly. It seems that even the mask on Ye Chen's face is not an ordinary thing. Could this kid be a dual talent? But Zhang Zilei quickly rejected the idea. When Ye Chen woke up, he was there, and he still remembered the green color. The entire Zhanghe city was green, and even his face was almost turned green. There is no such thing as a so-called second talent. Besides, if there is really a second talent, then the power of this flame is definitely not an ordinary talent. Excuse me, this new friend, the first time he played on the field, he met a veteran player of our fighting field. Ozhan, what are your thoughts, and how is your mood at the moment? Rabab put the microphone to Ye Chen's mouth with a smile. Ye Chen didn't speak. Does it make sense to speak on this occasion? Seeing that Ye Chen didn't speak, Laba took the microphone back. It seems that new friends don't like talking, so let's get ready and start the first fight. Ozhan and Ye Chen stood in the fighting arena. Ye Chen could clearly feel that the other party's realm was about 8 or 9. There was some contempt, but Ye Chen suddenly felt something was wrong. Why? Do you have a mentality of looking down on each other? This kind of mentality has appeared for the first time until now. Is it the power of emptiness? Ye Chen thought about it, and that was the only reason. After all, there is no other way to say it. The only change is that he has obtained the bonus of void power today. Boy, you don't plan to say your last words before you die. I admire your courage. Before the battle started, Rozhan had already started to taunt. The people in the audience cheered. Ye Chen and Rozhan's betting ratio has reached 1:5. Well, Ye Chen won, Rozhan 5. At this moment, Ji Ziodo said, I bet Hashirama a space ring. Ye Chen was stunned. Good guy. People are betting on money. At most Lingxi. What do you mean by meow? Betting on the space ring. After Ji Ziodo's bet on a ring, it was successfully closed. The ratio reached 1:1.7. It can be seen from this point that Ji Ziodo successfully suppressed 2/3 of the bets in the field by himself. So terrifying. In the backstage of the fighting arena, a staff member cried and called, Boss, the brother of Ji's family is here again. Do not care, but he bet directly on a space ring. Let him bet. It's fine. That price, the staff member said timidly, since he dares to bet, then a ring counts him 1 billion. The person behind the scenes was silent for a few seconds and said, the space rings in this kid's hands are more than 50 cubic meters, a random one is worth 1 billion yuan, no matter what kind of stuff he takes out. Anyway, he counted 1 billion yuan, and he was sure to make a profit without losing money. Understood. Back to the fighting arena. Rozhan's ridicule continued. Ye Chen was indifferent. Rozhan was a little angry, and he was the one who won dozens of battles in this arena. Boy, you're dead. Rozhan's talent is a pig killing knife. Speaking of which, originally this kind of talent had no value in cultivation. But this guy's talent seems to have changed. Every time a pig is killed, the talent of this pig killing knife will become a little stronger. From the C-level talent butcher knife slowly evolved into the current A-level talent. This guy has used it for 12 years. Ye Chen's face darkened, but because he was wearing a mask, the other party didn't see the change in Ye Chen's face. You want to kill me? Ye Chen's killing intent instantly suppressed Rozhan. Rozhan frowned. Boy, don't think that you are a peerless master when you wear a mask. After Rabba saw the closing, he had already announced that the battle had entered the countdown point. But there seems to be something wrong with this fighting arena. The countdown is 10 seconds, their countdown is 1 minute. Ye Chen knew very well in his heart that the reason they extended the countdown was to let the two sides speak to each other to provoke each other. Then, let the two players never die. It has to be said that this is a clear conspiracy, and everyone has tacitly accepted this situation. And life is so stressful. Don't you just want to relax when you come here? Since you want to kill me, then I'll send you down. Ye Chen spoke indifferently and put away the killing intent. As the countdown comes to the last 5 seconds, Ye Chen stared at each other with both eyes. 3, 2, 1. The fight begins. Ye Chen roared. Fuzan. Chapter 68. Ye Chen, let 039s have a 10-game winning streak. 1. Ye Chen let out a low roar, a blade of light flashed out, and a whisper blade key killed Rozhan. Rozhan was over 300 to 400 kgs of fat, and quickly hid to the side. Ye Chen closed the knife, and turned to leave. The knife energy from that slash passed through Rozhan in an instant. This is what kind of move? Rozhan asked. Ordinary. Spiritual power is turned into a slash. When Rozhan got Ye Chen's answer, Zehun rolled his eyes. The whole person was divided into two, and fell to the ground in 2 halves. Ye Chen looked in Laba's direction. Not yet announced. Laba swallowed. Win. The winner is Hashirama. Woohoo. That move just now, so fast. The battle is over as soon as it starts. Hashirama. So handsome. Hashirama. So strong. Hashirama. So fast. Wait, girl, this is too soon to be shouted. The audience was boiling. Although many people lost money in this battle, but a new strong man appeared in the fighting arena, which is naturally very surprising, unless it is those who put their whole family down on Rozhan in a desperate attempt. Such as the few people hiding in the corner crying, I have nothing, just borrowed 5 million from the arena. Now, a group of people with bitter faces, gamblers like them. There will be hundreds of them every day throughout the fighting arena. Poor person must have something mean. It's just like taking a gamble to get a better life. If you lose the gamble, you have to pay the corresponding price. After Ye Chen killed Rozhan, there was no turbulence in his heart. After all, it is not the first time to kill people, from Zhu Shen at the beginning, to the natives in the secret realm and Yan Feng of the Yan family, and then to some people who came to the door of the Yan family. There was even a trace of pleasure in Ye Chen's heart. Could it be that I'm really a pervert? Ye Chen thought to himself. When Laba finished cleaning up the battlefield, seeing Ye Chen hadn't left the fighting arena, he immediately became interested. The second fight is about to start. Hashirama is still on the stage. He is planning to. Laba stepped forward and said to Ye Chen, "Stop talking nonsense. Let's start the ring match." Laba was overjoyed. "Everyone, did you hear it? Hashirama, the ring match." Rabba shouted. A group of gamblers in the audience followed and shouted, "Hashirama, the ring match. Hashirama, the ring match." In an instant, the atmosphere in the fighting field was instantly elevated. Rabba, as the host, is also very excited. How long has it been since you saw a ring match? So, how long will Hashirama last? Rabba said excitedly. Rabba waved his small hand, and another bet method appeared on the big screen. On the big screen, there are many options: 3 in a row, 5 in a row, 10 in a row, 20 in a row, etc. Of course, you can also choose a winning streak at will, such as 11 consecutive victories and 12 consecutive victories. This is also one of the reasons why Rabba is excited. The ring competition is really a way to make money. Mr. Hashirama, please take a break first. After the betting is over, you will be notified to take the stage, Laba said with a wicked smile. But she had some bad intentions for Rabba. Ye Chen was already a dead person, and even if he didn't die, he would have to pay a heavy price. Just like the previous rules, when the ring match is abandoned, you have to fight again. This one is officially designated by the fighting field. Ye Chen didn't know that there was such a rule. Of course, in reality, the fighting field was just a black box operation. It's impossible to tell people what we are going to do or anything like that. But if Ye Chen knew about it, I was afraid that he would want to laugh. "Are you planning to arrange a scorching sun opponent for me? It's best not to play too much. Believe it or not, the big Buddha will come out and destroy the entire fighting field for you." Ye Chen regretted it. After returning to Jiziodo's VIP room. The opponent was killed with just one knife, and there was absolutely no combat experience to gain. The next game, I must fight hard. I can't use my moves, Ye Chen told himself. When Ye Chen came back, Jiziodo's eyes lit up. 1:1.7. That is to say, I just made a bet and earned 700 million. Small. The layout is small. Bet 10 space rings in your next game, brother. Ye, come, sit. Jiziodo quickly got up to make room for Ye Chen. Ye Chen took off the mask, feeling a little inexplicable. However, seeing Ye Chen taking off his mask, Jiziodo and Zhang Zilei were both stunned. This mask. What is the situation? But when I saw Ye Chen, I didn't want to say anything and didn't ask any more questions. Brother Ye, how many consecutive victories can you win? Tell me about it. To my brother, Jiziodo looked like a pig brother, still thinking in his heart. Smelly old man, and said that I only spend money. I can't make money. Today, my lord, I will make 180 billion for you to see. Ye Chen pondered for a while. I don't know, but I'm going to play a 10 game winning streak today to see the situation. 10 consecutive victories? Brother Ye, remember to give up after the 9th game, so you can leave after the 10th game, Jiziodo warned. Ye Chen nodded, indicating that it was clear Jiziodo was very happy, and quickly took out 10 storage rings from the ring. I bet on Hashirama to win 10 games in a row. He picked up his ID card and shouted. The staff in the background, who was reporting the situation to the boss, kept twitching. This guy can't satisfy the bet of 1 billion now. A voice came from the other end of the phone. Promise him, let him bet, and I'll let Dulong come over. Dulong? Fang Xiang was delighted when he heard the words, I understand. After hanging up the phone, He took out the walkie-talkie. Rabba, the boss said that we will let Dulang play in the last game. When Rabba heard the name, people instantly became more excited. This Dulang is the peak of the mountain, the so-called Hashirama point. No matter how strong it is, it can't be the peak of moving mountains, right? I understand. The betting time was as long as 20 minutes, and Labba finally stepped onto the stage. I vaguely remember that the last ring match was last month. The strongman persisted for 4 games and finally lost. I don't know how many games this Hashirama can last. Rabas words instantly caused the whole field to talk a lot. Yeah, the shadow from last month was still in the mountains, and he was beaten to death by Dulang. It's fine if you don't say it, but I get angry when you say it. I bet him for 4 consecutive victories, and he died in the 4th game. What do you guys think about the strength of this Hashirama? I don't know, but being able to kill Rozhan with one knife is definitely a move. I have 5 consecutive victories, because I also use a knife to move the mountain, and I can't catch his knife. Hiss. Then, Hashirama is really that strong? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69. A trick. A finger. Ye Chen didn't get the notification to play until the betting was closed in the fighting arena. Ye Chen stood up and glanced at the time on the wall. The fighting arena that opened at 6 o'clock. Ye Chen played the first game. There was still 1 minute to count down for that knife and 3 minutes of betting. It takes 4 minutes plus 3 seconds in total. Draw a knife in 1 second, kill in 1 second, and fall to the ground in 1 second. And now it's nearly 7 o'clock. It seems that this so-called ring match is quite troublesome. But Ye Chen didn't care about this, and walked out of the VIP room with his left hand covering his face. Brother, Ye, come on. Ye Chen didn't look back, his arm raised and waved. I'm going to warm up, and I'll be right back. The mask appeared on the face, and the breath on the body became dark again. Giziodo is like a little fanboy, his eyes are shining brightly. Brother, Ye is so handsome, but it's a pity I'm the only child, otherwise I'll make him my brother-in-law. Zhang Zilei on the side was speechless. Aren't you afraid that your father will kill you? He dares. Giziodo suddenly said loudly. He has to pray that my mother doesn't kill him. Speaking of this, Giziodo suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Yes, you can't be a brother-in-law. You can be a brother-in-law. Let brother Yi wait for my sister for 18 years. Giziodo simply admired his wit and immediately took out his mobile phone to make a call. Zhang Zilei quickly stopped Giziodo. Don't make trouble, okay? Why don't you have a daughter and let Ye Chen be your son-in-law? Giziodo looked at Zhang Zilei with a shocked expression. Brother Zilei, this is a wonderful trick. This trick is so wonderful. Zhang Zilei was completely silent, glanced at Giziodo with a wise look, and stopped talking. Turning his attention to the fighting arena. At the same time, Giziodo was thinking about how to climb up the relationship with Ye Chen. Ye Chen here is already standing on the fighting arena. Hashirama, Hashirama, Hashirama. Because of Ye Chen's appearance, the atmosphere was instantly ignited. Perhaps the impact of the previous knife has not cooled down. There was only Ye Chen and the eyes of the audience present. Hashirama, I bet you 100 million in a 10-game winning streak. I'll give you my fortune. Come on. Ye Chen on the field was dumbfounded when he heard these words. You were really fooled by you, and you actually bet on a 10-game winning streak. Ladies and gentlemen, our ring match is ready, because it is the start of the ring match. Our rules today are the same as the old ones, and the players will re-register. But it's not a wise move for some players to sign up. After all, if the first game is selected, GGGG, Rabab even made an unpleasant laugh when he said that. However, the people present were even more excited because of these words. So, let's start our first ring match today. Rabba shouted. The arm points towards the big screen. Today's first challenger. Who will it be? The Huge screen is beating wildly with countless names, and the audience present is praying that it is better to have a weaker opponent. Let Hashirama win a few more games in a row. After all, if he loses the first one, there is no point, but there are indeed many people who are very confident. After all, Ye Chen's knife is too strong. Come out. Today's first opponent in the Hashirama contest is Black Dog, Rabas. Voice swept the entire fighting arena. It turned out to be a black dog. The one who awakened to the 9 realms. I heard that he was a lone wolf with beast talent, but he insisted on calling himself a black dog. What a weird person. Yeah, no matter what, wolves are better than dogs, right? Haha, are you all ignorant? That black dog has been fond of dogs since he was a child. He heard that his life was saved by a dog. Since then, he has been dependent on each other. Later, he awakened his talent by accident. Although he is a wolf, he still likes to bark. I'm a black dog, so that's it. Then you said, who will win this game? It's hard to say. Hashirama's knife is very strong, but Rozhan is too big and cumbersome, so he was killed with one knife. And the black dog, his talent is a lone wolf. After all, the beast talent is possessed. After that, the strengthening of the body is really powerful. Yeah, I think this Hashirama is like that. I'm afraid that defeating Rozhan before is also taking advantage of Rozhan's slow speed. That knife must be his full strength. Under the cheers of the crowd, the black dog also walked to the fighting arena. Seeing that the two were in place, Labber immediately started the countdown. Still waiting for that long minute point, and as soon as the black dog came on stage, he looked at Ye Chen with a fierce expression. The battle just now, I saw it. It's not bad, but that should be your strongest sword, right? The black dog subconsciously licked his lips. Ye Chen shook his head. What do you want to express? A red light flashed in the black dog's eyes. Express what? Hahaha, 3 moves. 3 moves will kill you. Ye Chen is used to it. Rozhan in the first game is like this, and now the black dog is like this. Is it really a group of ordinary people who are extremely popular? Ye Chen raised his hand and stretched out a finger. The black dog looked at Ye Chen gloomily, with a stern tone. You mean, beat me with 1 move? You said it yourself. Ye Chen said jokingly. And their conversation was also broadcast on the big screen, and the entire fighting field could hear it clearly. 3, 2, 1. The battle begins. With the big screen, the final countdown to the battle fell. The black dog didn't dare to be careless and instantly released his talent, and a one-eyed wolf instantly possessed himself. Ye Chen called him a good guy after seeing it, so the lone wolf means a one-eyed wolf. Ye Chen was completely stunned by this sudden change. Seeing this, the black dog immediately attacked by a hungry wolf and jumped up. Die. Ye Chen still pointed at that finger without any movement. A smile flashed in the black dog's eyes. This move is not an ordinary pounce, but his innate skill. Have a momentary displacement. Ye Chen was staring at the black dog, only to see the black dog suddenly disappear in midair. This is his innate skill. Flicker. However, with his strength, he can only flash 2 meters for the time being, and the cooling time is as long as 5 seconds. Ye Chen instantly appeared in front of the black dog in front of him, blinking his eyes. It seems that the 3 tricks are that I overestimated you. The smile on the corner of the black dog's mouth became more and more presumptuous. Several wolf claws on the arms stabbed towards Ye Chen's abdomen. It's over. The audience under the stage became anxious in an instant. Most of them were betting on Ye Chen's 3 or 4 consecutive victories. It turned out that this was the first game. It seems that this so-called Hashirama is really a piece of garbage, and it can't even take a trick from the black dog. Brother. Ye Jiziodo and Zhangjireya stood up from their chairs excitedly, staring at the situation off the field. PS. Old rules. There are 2 chapters later at 12 o'clock. Chapter 70, The Pirate Girl Who Moved to the Mountain. It can be said that Ye Chen is quite courageous. He is testing the passive skills of void power with the opponent, just like the unmarked healing brought by wood style and sage body. Void power also brings basic passive, steel skin. Although this passive sound is not very pleasant, it can make human skin as hard as steel. After going down, remember to say my name to Lord Yama, Black Dog, Chang. After That moment, the whole audience was stunned for a while. This sound, shouldn't it be the sound of two iron objects colliding? Nalaba originally thought that the ring match was about to end, but did not expect such a turning point. He picked up the microphone and shouted, "Just now, when the black dog's paw touched Hashirama's abdomen, a spark was drawn. This, Hashirama, could it be the steel type talent of the gold type?" The audience exclaimed for a while. It turned out that the knife was not Hashirama's talent, but just a weapon. The fighting field does not say that weapons cannot be used, but under normal circumstances, the role of talent is definitely higher than that of weapons. In other words, Ye Chen didn't even use his talent in the last match against Rozhan. The black dog's face changed greatly, and he wanted to leave without a single blow. Going to escape now? Is it a bit late? Ye Chen was full of jokes. He is very satisfied with his defense. He grabbed the black dog's arm with one hand, and the fingers of the other hand still didn't move. One finger pointed, pierced through the heart. Black dog, pawn, you got one thing wrong. I didn't mean to kill you with a single trick. I said it with one finger. Ye Chen pulled his fingers out of the black dog's heart and pushed the black dog away. In disgust, he took out a towel from the ring. You can't kill like this next time. Your fingers are not clean. After doing all this simple, Ye Chen turned to look at Rabab. Next person. Ye Chen's loud voice resounded all over the fighting arena. As expected of my brother Ye, this kid is about to scare me to death. I thought something happened. How should I explain it to my dad? Zhang Zilei was a little speechless. It's easy to scare people to death. Okay. And off the court, Ye Chen's indifferent appearance and arrogant words instantly moved the atmosphere. And the playboys in the major families heard that someone was starting to fight in the ring, and they all rushed towards the fighting arena. Such interesting things are rare. Got to go over there and have some fun. And Ji Ziodo has begun to feel that his bets are less. Boss, I think Dulang may not be able to beat this Hashirama. Fang Xiang started to call the boss again. What's the meaning? Lone wolf can't break the defense, called Hashirama. Hey, how is this possible? Although the lone wolf is average, his attack is not weak. The so-called boss couldn't believe it. It shouldn't be a big problem. The lone wolf and the lone wolf are not of the same level. But Fang Xiang wanted to say something. He always felt that this so-called Hashirama was a bit evil, and he couldn't tell where the evil was. Okay, that's it. If Dulan can't beat him, it means that someone from the Sea Realm must be sent to play. The person on the other end of the phone said again. Fang Xiang had to be obedient and not say more. He knows that if he goes on, his boss will definitely be angry. Player, Hashirama always gives us unexpected results. Rozhan's game too. Lone Wolf's game too. I'm really getting more and more curious about Hashirama. Player Rabba said with a microphone on the podium beside him. Ye Chen glanced at Labba. Stop talking nonsense. Next time, don't waste my precious time. Rabba froze for a moment. Who are these people? Can't they just say something warm? It seems that our Hashirama player doesn't like to talk too much. So, let's start randomly drawing our second player. Seeing Ye Chen's attitude towards him, Labba also smiled awkwardly and hurriedly began to choose his opponent in the second round. The big screen beat again, and everyone in the audience was extremely excited. Of course, there is even more excitement because in the game just now, Hashirama killed the so-called lone wolf without wasting much time at all. In other words, the current Hashirama still retains almost perfect physical condition. Then there is hope for a 10-game winning streak. Pirate girl. Rabba's eyes widened instantly when she saw the name on the screen. The second opponent of the Hashirama ring match turned out to be a thief. What? That thief who never lost a match? What? Do you mean you haven't lost a game, and those who have lost in the fighting arena are basically dead, right? Brother, are you new here? Do you know that this thief is a strong person who moved to the mountains? Moving to the mountains? That doesn't mean that Hashirama's hangs up. It's definitely hanging. The strength of the mountain moving realm is not comparable to the awakening realm. A female audience member in a black leather jacket sighed deeply, then stood up helplessly and walked towards the ring. Ye Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. This so-called thief was actually a woman. Labba didn't speak. Who knew if this Hashirama would attack him again? so he silently pressed the prepare button. The countdown starts on the big screen. Unfortunately, if I met you in the 5th or 6th game, I might be able to beat you, but I don't think I can beat you now. Different from the previous ones, when the thief came on the court, she didn't taunt like other people. Instead, he said that he was not as good as Ye Chen. Ye Chen was instantly interested in the woman in front of him. The woman in front of her has an extremely graceful figure. After all, if she wasn't confident in her figure, I don't think anyone would wear a black leather jacket, so it's a tight-fitting type, right? Aren't you going to say something, mysterious man? The little hand of the thief wiped the corners of her mouth and said charmingly. Ye Chen was indifferent. Everyone who came to power said they wanted to kill me. You won't kill me. I'm not like this group of people. I have a hobby of killing people, the thief said here. Her face flushed. I'm interested in you, or it will end. Let's go out happy and happy. I'm sorry, I don't have that kind of sexual interest, Ye Chen said coldly. When the thief heard this, she was even happier. It turns out that she is still a baby. Then my sister wants to play with you even more. The moment the thief finished saying those words, the countdown ended. The battle begins. The speed of the thief was extremely fast, and Ye Chen was a little surprised. Looks like it's a thief route. Little brother, you're so smart. A dagger appeared in the thief's hand, and this dagger was undoubtedly her talent. Tempered Lion Majesty Blade. Short dagger. As long as the snake venom above is infected below the mountain, it will die. Over the years, countless people have died under the dagger of the thief. Of course, Ye Chen didn't know about this situation, and didn't take the dagger of the thief seriously. Chapter 71. I gave you a chance. Speed. It's not your exclusive. A strong wind appeared under his feet. When the thief girl saw Ye Chen's words, a trace of disdain appeared on the corner of her mouth. Little brother, I'm afraid you are not overestimating yourself, but in the next second, the face of the thief girl changed dramatically. Really? Miss Thief, you said that if I punch you, will you lie on the ground and babble? Ye Chen's voice sounded behind the thief girl. How is that possible? The thief raised her dagger and stabbed Ye Chen behind her. The thief was startled by Ye Chen's teleportation-like speed. Ye Chen, who was in front of him before, actually appeared behind him. Ye Chen raised Raijin without even drawing out the knife, and easily blocked the attack. That's not enough, Miss Thief, Ye Chen said contemptuously. How about I give you a chance? You step down now, and I'll let you go. The thief didn't respond, and it was impossible to get away with a single blow. This is the rule of thumb for thieves. Ye Chen didn't immediately pursue. Why are you so fast? The thief questioned in disbelief. Ye Chen was speechless about the thief's words. I'm just so fast, and I can be even faster. Look, what kind of bullhorse dialogue this is? If you don't know, you think a man and a woman are on the bed. Why are you so fast? Oh baby, I can be faster. Hoops, the floor is crooked. Closer to home. Although the thief knew that she was not necessarily Ye Chen's opponent, she didn't expect it to be so difficult. I saw a fierce flash in the eyes of the thief, and the speed skyrocketed again. Using a different tactic than before, he ran around Ye Chen. Ye Chen didn't panic at all. He really wanted to see how the woman in front of him would attack. Seeing that Ye Chen didn't care about her actions at all, the thief became more and more angry. When the speed of the thief reached a critical point, the thief threw the dagger in her hand. Ye Chen was stunned for a moment, then dodged easily. That's it. The speed of the thief was too fast, so he directly surrounded Ye Chen in a circle, caught the thrown dagger again, and threw it from behind Ye Chen. That's interesting. I like it. The thief didn't respond to Ye Chen's words. Her speed had already exceeded her limit. The after images surrounded Ye Chen, and at this speed, the thief had no way to speak. Then, you prepare. I'm going to start serious. Ye Chen held the long knife in his waist while dodging the attack of the thief's dagger. He whispered, everything is ashes. Raijin. All the audience present were at a loss and didn't understand what Ye Chen was going to do at this time. But in the next second, their eyes were instantly wrong. I saw Ye Chen pull out Raijin, and a fire came out of its sheath. Gently drawing the knife, a flame slash appeared. What's the situation? Isn't this a Hashirama of gold? Could he have two talents? Double talent. Gee. Xiaodo watched Ye Chen use the power of flame, and his eyes lit up instantly. That's right, that's the flame. That's what Brother Ye used to demolish the house that day. Zang. Zilay. The thief saw a flame slash blocking her waypoint. The sudden slam on the brakes stopped the moment it touched the flame point. I saw that the flame was attached to the ground, and there was no flammable material, but it was burning wildly, and the temperature seemed to be very wrong. The thief swallowed her saliva and looked at the flames on the ground, as if she had escaped from death, her heart beating violently. For a moment, I felt like I was touching this flame. Will die. Run. Why didn't you run? Ye Chen said with a smile. The thief's face was gloomy. The method is good, but moving mountains is not something you can look down on. A purple light flashed in the eyes of the thief girl. Ye Chen's eyes were lost, and a word flashed in his mind instantly. Charm. Isn't this guy a thief? Exclamation mark. Why is there such a talent as charm? Can your dagger seduce people? Ye Chen was careless when the thief saw that Ye Chen had been fooled. She was overjoyed and killed Ye Chen with a dagger. There was a violent aura from the power of emptiness in Ye Chen's heart, which made Ye Chen wake up. Fire. Rejection. Ye Chen hurriedly raised the knife and waved it around him. A flame emanated from his body. The thief girl's face changed drastically, and she quickly backed away. This kind of move, I underestimated you. Ye Chen raised Raijinjaka and pointed at the thief. This trick, then you can live. If not, you will die. Ye Chen spoke indifferently. At the moment when the thief charmed him earlier, he could clearly see the killing intent in his eyes. This woman, the words she said before she came to power, were just to numb herself. If there is a chance, he will kill himself. Seeing this, the thief raised her hand and surrendered. I surrender. Ye Chen frowned upon hearing this. You've escaped, then. Let's play next time. Ye Chen carried the knife on his shoulders, turned around and shouted at Rabba. Laba looked at Ye Chen with a half smile, but didn't answer immediately. The battle is not over yet. Unless you jump off the fighting platform in the fighting field, you will continue to fight. Ye Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. You are courting death yourself. Ye Chen turned around and saw that the thief girl was already holding a dagger, only a few centimeters away from her heart. Ye Chen was angry. He was playing with you, thinking that surrendering would mean surrendering. Playing tricks on me? There was wind under Ye Chen's feet and instantly disappeared in place. This is the active skill that comes with the power of the void. Ringing. Dodge the opponent's attack at an extremely fast speed, which is comparable to teleportation. You're dead. Ye Chen's voice appeared behind the thief again. The veins in his left hand burst out, and a punch hit the back of the thief girl. Wow. A mouthful of blood poured out of the thief's mouth. His eyes were instantly white, and his consciousness was instantly blurred. Ye Chen stood beside the thief girl, and Raijinjaka was on the thief girl's neck. Don't. Do not kill me. I was wrong. Ye Chen raised his knife and fell, and a pretty head rolled to the ground. I gave you a chance. Ye Chen said softly, as if to him, it was nothing. It was also unclear whether this so-called thief could hear Ye Chen's last words before she died. Laba looked at Ye Chen's neat knife. Blood spattered all over his body. Then I remembered that this person in front of him was a ruthless man, except for the battle of the thief. The previous two battles were almost all instant kills. So strong. Why come to the fighting arena? Looking for excitement? Ye Chen indifferently kicked the thief girl's body off the fighting ring. Next person. P.S. Originally, this chapter was written as Ye Chen let go of the thief, but the thief attacked Ye Chen and then died. But I've been hearing Ye Chen is a bit of a virgin lately, so I changed it a bit. Probably the thief girl surrendered through the loophole in the fighting arena. Ye Chen took it seriously and then was attacked. It can't be called the Virgin Mary, can it? This is at best a slap in the face. Also, thank you all for the gifts. Chapter 72. The bet is reversed. The villa is by the sea. Once poor become a dog. See you on the roof. Ye Chen's indifferent voice resounded throughout the fighting arena. The audience was silent. Ye Chen, who thought it was going to end here. I thought that this naive player was going to die at the hands of the thief. This momentary reversal made everyone dizzy. Brother Ye's hand. Xiaodo was rarely excited, but stared at Ye Chen with a frown. Zhang Zilei was puzzled. What? This moment of his body is like a jump in space. Ziodo took a deep breath and said, if the lone wolf's teleportation of 2 meters before is considered a space flicker, but it has limitations. For example, he can only jump up, and he can only use flicker when using culling. But this move by Brother Yi, it's just used to avoid attacks. That means he has no restrictions. Zhang Zile was confused, and when he heard Ziodo's words, although he didn't know much, he also heard a very powerful feeling. You mean Ye Chen's move is very strong, more than strong. Time and space are involved. Ziodo swallowed and said in disbelief, then why didn't you have such a big reaction to the skills like the lone wolf before? Ziodo glanced at Zhang Zile. His moves are at most fixed, and his tactics can't be changed. But Brother Yi is different. He can use it as he wants. It's almost like he is also talented in space. Zhang Zile was shocked and sighed. How many secrets are there that I haven't seen yet? All previous dissatisfaction with Ye Chen has disappeared. Now it is said that Ye Chen can surpass his sister and become a demigod in the future. Zhang Zile will believe it unconditionally. Ye Chen's performance is really too bright. There are many young masters. In order to meet this newcomer in the ring, they saw the knife on the big screen the moment they entered the arena. A decisive knife. And that last sentence apostrophe, I gave you a chance. Next one. In an instant, blood surged up. It's a pity that after the ring match is closed, you can't add bets, so this time, this group of sons and brothers just came to see the excitement. Hashirama really surprised us. So what kind of performance will he bring us in the next third game? Let's wait and see. Rabba shouted loudly. Ye Chen glared at Rabba silently. There's so much nonsense. Cough. Cough. Rabba's eyes flashed with a trace of hostility. Let you be arrogant for a while. Wait for Dulang to play and see how arrogant you can be. Then we have our third contestant. Wait. Ye Chen interrupted Labba. If I have a 10-game winning streak, I still need to fight 8 people, right? Labba was completely confused by Ye Chen's single-handed operation. Yes, then let the remaining 8 players play. After playing these 8, I'll come back tomorrow. Ye Chen put Raijin Jaka on his shoulders, raised his head, and stared at Rabab. Hashirama, don't be kidding. Just kidding? Who is kidding you? Ye Chen said jokingly. Let the remaining 8 play. It's a waste of time. Rabab was shocked. The audience under the stage was also very surprised. This situation. It's the first time I've seen it. Brother Yi, so handsome. Ziodo's eyes flashed, and now he was more determined to introduce his unborn sister to Ye Chen. However, if you play 8, is it a bit too much? Ziodo shook his head, put aside the introduction of his sister, and said worriedly, it's not a big problem. Zhang Zile took a sip of water, and said while stroking his love egg, that kid, I'm afraid he hasn't used 1/10 of his strength. I have to say, Zhang Zile, the pattern is small. Thousandth. If it weren't for the lack of blue, let alone the kilometer-high giant Buddha, the 3,333 meter giant Buddha in Hashirama was perfectly brought out of the comics for you. Hashirama, 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 Hashirama. Hashirama never thought that in another world, someone would be called by his name. Choose. People, 8 will go together, otherwise it will be boring. Ye Chen spoke again, confirming that Rabba had not heard the wrong thing. Then he glanced at the ceiling again. It's a little short. Ye Chen was a little clueless. After using his strength, he didn't pay attention to burning the ceiling. Looking back, the fighting field seemed to be about 100 meters in diameter. A large disc. The height is no more than 30 or 40 meters. Everywhere else is full of people. If this is really going to be done, Ye Chen will be born in the tree world of alien beasts and will be destroyed directly. Thinking of this, Ye Chen felt a little bored. After the strength is too strong. It seems to be playing with children. But in terms of realm, Ye Chen's realm is not yet the realm of moving mountains. Who's to make sense of this? Ye Chen made a decision in his heart. After the college entrance examination, he must find a strange beast in the scorching sun. We also don't know which lucky beast will become Ye Chen's target, so we can only say, well, do it yourself. When Ye Chen proposed a fight for 8, Fang Xiang in the backstage was already asking the boss for instructions. The ring competition is rare, and this time the ring competition is even more outrageous as the voice in Rabba's headset sounded. The boss said yes. Rabba didn't answer. The backhand microphone was raised. Since our Hashirama players like to play like this, then we will fulfill the Hashirama players' little hobby, Rabba exclaimed. The arena agrees. Incredible. I've been playing this way for so long, and this is the first time I've seen it. Interesting. So interesting. Labba smiled mysteriously. Since there is such an exciting new gameplay, it is natural to open a new game for everyone. Two big characters appeared instantly on the big screen. Point win and lose. 3 minutes of betting time. Seize the opportunity to bet. Ye Chen looked at the big screen above and was speechless. He really didn't miss any opportunity to open the market, but he didn't say anything, just waited quietly. Minutes and seconds have passed, and the 3-minute betting time has come. No matter how strong Hashirama is, he can't beat 8 people. Isn't this just to give money to everyone? I'm more concerned. But what about those who bet on 5 or 6 winning streaks later? You guys, you are still too young, and the layout is too small. At this moment, an old man raised his finger and pointed at the big screen. The ratio of 1:13. As long as you backhand this Hashirama 1 million, you can instantly make a profit of 13 million. As the so-called bet is reversed, the villa by the sea. Yo, old gambler, you're not afraid of being a poor dog. See you on the rooftop every day. Is it alright to see you on the rooftop? What if you don't fall to your death? Would you like to meet for a parachute jump? PS. As usual, there are 2 more chapters in the evening. Thanks for the god tier certification of Nether Ghost Dragon. Thanks for the great love and gratitude. Chapter 73. White Dishan. Dulong, who had rested for a long time in the background, had murderous intent in his eyes. I don't know the heights of the boy. He violently drank the spirits in his hand and walked towards the fighting platform. After the betting is over, the ratio on the big screen is also fixed at 1:9. The original ratio of 1:13 forced Giziodo to come back. Sure enough, it's arrogant, but if it can be broken into 1:1, it will be even more awesome. With 1 player on the stage, Ye Chen glanced indifferently, not panicking at all. Can't even remember the name. An author blew himself up in his later years. I'm ashamed to say it, because I'm too lazy to name that. Wouldn't it be Dulong? A trembling voice sounded, and everyone in the audience exclaimed, "It's him. I remember his face. Hashirama is in danger. Alas, it looks like the 100,000 yuan is a waste. Don't say it. I also bet 1 million. Ye Chen stood on the stage with a bewildered face. Was there a lone wolf before? Now there is a Dulong. You don't have one-eyed dragon talent or something, right? However, Ye Chen immediately shook his head and dismissed the idea. After all, if it is really the talent of dragons, it is impossible to fight here, right? Boy, you are so arrogant. Don't be in such a hurry to find death, right? There are always a few idiots who can't see the situation clearly, and they come up to ridicule. Instead, there were a few people who looked at Ye Chen, who was full of loopholes, calmly. The masked man in front of him seemed to be fearless, deliberately showing his flaws to everyone. So, can we start? Ye Chen turned his head and glanced at Labba. Labba nodded. Old rules. 1 minute of battle preparation. Ye Chen stopped talking, raised his head, and glanced at the ceiling again. It still feels too low. Before Raijin Jakashike, the liberation has not been lifted. Ye Chen pondered, gave the opponent a second with a knife. Right. Faced with the ridicule of the previous opponents, Ye Chen expressed annoyance. 3, 2, 1. The battle begins. The sound of the start of the battle fell. Ye Chen stepped in the air and stepped back a few meters. Song. Ming. Ye Chen slashed out, and a pillar of flame rose from the ground. This time, it was Ye Chen's full force attack. A pillar of fire accounted for half of the fighting field with a diameter of 100 meters. What? Huge. Flames shot straight to the ceiling, and a scorching heat hit the face. Ye Chen was shocked, and quickly put his hand away. Almost burned the ceiling again. Ye Chen withdrew the knife, turned around and stepped down. I hope you can expand this fighting arena when I come tomorrow. It's too small, and I haven't enjoyed it yet. Those poor 8 people, who didn't even have a chance to escape, were instantly swallowed up by a 50-meter diameter pillar of fire, and turned to ashes. If it wasn't for Ye Chen's quick closing, the ceiling would not have been secured. I'll come back tomorrow and hit 100. Ye Chen, who left such a sentence, left without looking back. Laba's face was covered in cold sweat, and he seemed to have murdered him before. One move, forming a 50-meter flame pillar. What power is this? Bright Moon Realm. Yanzhen run. You fart. Leo Z can't do it. The backstage supervisor, Fang Xiang, was so shocked by the scene in front of him that he was speechless. What boss or something? Completely left behind. Just sent the video of the battle just now to the boss. Ye Chen returned to the VIP room. Ji Xiaodo was frantically counting money. 1 space ring. 2 space rings. 3. What? Are you counting? Ye Chen walked up curiously. Brother. Ye. I just earned 340 space rings. Ji Xiaodo shouted loudly, mixed with pride. He now wants to run to his grandfather as soon as possible and throw the ring on his face. Then he said, see, the young master earned it. Ye Chen people are stupid. Win so much. I'll get it later. I'll share half of it with brother Ye. Ji Xiaodo said with a smile. Let's go. There's a riot today. It's not interesting. Ye Chen shook his head, not rejecting Ji Xiaodo's kindness. Zhang Zilei said to a group of speechless people, of course you are boring. The people in the audience are interesting. Zhang Zilei pointed to the cheering audience below. With the absolute strength of Hashirama, he killed 8 players with 1 knife and instantly detonated the audience. That poor Dulang died when he came out. Chen Xiang said, I still have 2 chapters to live, and you have paved the way for several chapters, and you haven't even appeared in 1,000 words. Dulang, I thank you. That night, the name of Hashirama was completely on the list of underground forces, in particular, the Fang family, the Yan family, and the Bei family, the underground fighting arena jointly established by the 3 families. Although the high-level people do not like this kind of place, where weak chickens fight, it can bring huge benefits to the family. This also makes them turn a blind eye. Yanling, what do you think? Fang Yuan threw the Hashirama information in his hand to the man called Yanling. Yanling frowned. Awakening realm. A move that can't even be done in the Bright Moon realm. Fang Yuan, are you kidding me? Fang Yuan was a little unhappy at Yanling's words and immediately said with a gloomy face, Kate, is it true? With the video out there, do you think I would make a joke about this kind of thing? On the other side, sitting beside the 2, Bei Dishan was taciturn and looked at the 2 with a slight smile. Just when the 2 still wanted to say something, Bei Dishan spoke. You 2 still like to quarrel so much. Fang Yuan is right. People can lie, but video recordings are not. Are there any changes to the video in front of you? Yanling, you can't see it, right? Bei Dishan tapped lightly on the table with his fingers. The room fell silent in an instant. Fang Yuan and Yanling were a little afraid of the white Dishan in front of them. Although the 3 of them are all in this place in Kyoto, they are all called geniuses, but there are differences between geniuses. For example, Fang Yuan and Yanling, at the age of 24, have reached the peak of the sea level. And they are already geniuses among geniuses. And Bei Dishan, 29 years old, in the Bright Moon realm. In just 5 years, the difference is a whole star realm. Okay, this Hashirama, leave it to me to contact. You can manage the fighting field well. Bei Dishan picked up the teacup in front of him and took a sip. Then got up and left. Bei Dishan took off into the sky and said Ye Chen's name with a smile on his way home. My brother, I really praise you to the sky, and I don't know what your strength is. Bei Dishan became more and more curious about Ye Chen. When he entered the capital, there was already a wave of Dalai hits, and the popularity continued for a long time. It's only been a few days, and the underground fighting field is in a mess again. Chapter 74. Bei Dishan loses his demeanor by virtue of his strength. Speaking of the Bei family, it is an extremely eccentric family in Kyoto. The family has a single lineage, and it is almost impossible to get pregnant after giving birth to a child. Even if you change your wife, it is useless to change 10 wives. Beidi Shan's mother died after giving birth to Beidi Shan because of dystocia. And Beisen's mother, that is, Beidi Shan's stepmother, treats Beidi Shan very well, making Beidi Shan feel his mother's love. This also caused Beidi Shan to be very concerned about the later Beizan, his half-brother. But here comes the problem. After Beidi Shan's father Bei Junjian married Fankir, Fankir was pregnant. Who can you bear with this? The Bei family has a single lineage, and for hundreds of years, every man, be it a woman, can only give birth to one baby. And you, Bei Junjian, is an exception. Have another son? So Fankir lay down innocently, and when she found out that she was pregnant, everyone was instantly dumbfounded. Everyone knows about the Bei family in Kyoto. Under the stern question of the Bei family, Fankir insisted that she did not feel sorry for Bei Junjian. Then back to Fang's house. Fortunately, 4-year-old Beidi Shan protected his stepmother during this period, and Fankir did not die under Bei Junjian's hands until the birth of Beizan. Everyone in the Bei family was stunned. It was really the blood of Bei Junjian. This is the end of a farce. But until now, Fankir and Beizan have not chosen to return to Bei's house. Just as Fankir said, distrust once means there will be a second time. Fankir, as a tool of marriage, returned to Fang's house and was not welcomed by others. In desperation, he had to send the young Beizan to Zhanghai City so as not to be looked down upon. But fortunately, Beidi Shan cared about Beizan meticulously. This also made Fankir very happy. Ye Chen's mask is the same as wearing it without it. Anyone in the whole of Kyoto with some status knows that Hashirama is actually Ye Chen. Especially that knife. Is it possible that someone really went to cost that boy? Jiziodo called out. When will you dress me up in the same costume as brother Yi? Remember to ask for an extra large size, otherwise my 250-pound weight won't fit. On the way out of the fighting arena, Jiziodo had already called his driver to come pick him up, and he finally couldn't help but speak in the car. Brother Yi, the trick you just used is very similar to what I saw before. Which trick? Do you mean Songming? Ye Chen asked back, and then he cried stupidly. It seems to have used this trick. Well, the trick Songming used at home before. Didn't use all your strength. This time it's all about urging. Ye Chen said lightly. Jiziodo has completely become Ye Chen's little fanboy. Brother Yi, how strong are you? Jiziodo took Ye Chen's hand and asked like an idiot. Ye Chen broke away with a bit of disgust. It can only kill a few. Hao urging. How many? Bright Moon Realm. Jiziodo exclaimed. The driver who was driving beside him kept twitching at the corners of his eyes. Who are these people bragging without drafting? How many Haoajin can you kill? Why don't you say that you can destroy the saint? It seems that I have to report this matter to the owner of the house. Young master can't be deceived by a liar. Zhang Jiraiya was a little speechless. If that Buddha belonged to Ye Chen, he could really kill a few Haoajin. Don't talk about how many. Come and die. Okay. Ye Chen, who had just returned home, noticed that something was wrong. When Ye Chen and others left the villa, the workers also left. After all, it was already 5:30. After the construction time, it was time to rest. And now, in the villa, there is a powerful spiritual force. Let's just say, those workers, it's impossible to hide their identities, right? I don't know which friend is visiting. Come out and meet. The moment Ye Chen stepped into the villa, his voice sounded. Jiziodo and Zhang Zilei silently followed behind Ye Chen. No one responded in the villa, but a gust of wind came into Ye Chen's ears. A long sword rose into the sky, but under the night, the sword's edge shone with the luminous light. Then, that long sword pointed at Ye Chen, swooping down towards Ye Chen. The speed suddenly increased sharply. Ye Chen frowned slightly. Wood style. Wood expulsion jutsu. Trees grow under Ye Chen's feet. A huge shield with ghostly fangs appeared in front of Ye Chen. Boom. In the silent night, the huge movement instantly caught the attention of the neighbors. People gave me a sword before they saw it. Can't I justify it? Zhang Zilei and Jiziodo looked at Ye Chen in front of them, and they were stupid. Why become two Ye Chens? I saw one of them. Ye Chen. Making a mute gesture. Xiaodo swallowed and nodded. Zhang Zilei was inexplicably calm and was not surprised at Ye Chen's new tricks. Hahaha. You are Ye Chen, right? This defensive move is good. It's the first time I've seen it. Hearty laughter came from the sky. Wood expulsion jutsu separated from it, and Ye Chen body hid behind wood expulsion jutsu. Who are you? Ye Chen's wood style clone asked. When Beidi Shan stood in the air, a sword broke through Ye Chen's wood style and flew towards Beidi Shan. Beidi Shan sat on the sword. Well, good question. Quite a sword fairy demeanor. My name is Beidi Shan. I'm Baizen's big brother. Bai's big brother? Ye Chen was stunned. His brows furrowed. The whole thing went through in his mind. And Xiaodo was so frightened that his mouth turned white. Bei family. Dishan. Xiaodo obviously knew Beidi Shan very well. After all, his grandfather often mentioned this name in front of him. A genius who has already stepped into the bright moon realm at the age of 28 and once single-handedly killed the alien beast in the scorching sun. One-handed swordsmanship is superb. You are here for Brother Bei? Ye Chen reprimanded. He has already left the Bei family. You still won't let him go, Bei. Dishan's originally smiling expression was instantly stunned by Ye Chen's words. This kid won't be a brain trick. What are you talking about? Beidi Shan was speechless. Can you not play cards according to the routine? Isn't it? You and I are vying for the position of patriarch. Brother Bei. My brother Bei is not talented enough and can only leave his hometown. Are you still unwilling to let him go? Ye Chen said righteously. My younger brother is in front of me every day. Ye Chen is very good. Ye Chen is very strong. Ye Chen must be a strong man in the future. But now I only see one funny ratio. The corners of Beidi Shan's eyes twitched slightly. Through this incident, everyone can find that Ye Chen. It's really awesome. He can take everyone's high cold model or high level model. It's all broken for you. Chapter 75. Beidi Shan has never been so wronged in his life. The clone Ye Chen frowned slightly. When he heard the words he scolded in a low voice. Do you think I would believe it? With the Raijin Jaka in the backhand. Here comes the problem. Can the clone Raijin Jaka be able to shike? Funny Madara said. I'm familiar with this question, and I was the person who wrote it back then. Can you just call my brother? Beidi Shan's whole body is not well. In all these years, this is the first time I have encountered such a guy who speaks completely out of the way. What? You said? Ye Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. It makes sense. Everyone is confused. What you said is the same as what you didn't say. However, you ask me to fight. I'll fight. Then how embarrassing am I, Bei? Dishan's whole body felt bad in an instant. I'll fight. Bei. Dishan sat on the sword and roared. Then he took out his mobile phone and called Baizen. Open the hands-free directly. Ye Chen's face is abusive, and I don't believe it. If you ask you to hit me with a sword without saying anything. Ye Chen believed more than half of it, since Beidi Shan told about his younger brother, let alone asked Ye Chen to call to confirm. But he was deliberately angry with Dishan. Think about it. As soon as you stepped into your own house, someone came up and gave you a brick, and then told you afterwards, I'm your friend's big brother, and I was just kidding with you. So the question is, do you believe it? Beep. The corners of Beidi Shan's eyes twitched slightly. Dear, my stupid brother, you wouldn't answer the phone at this time, would you? Hello, the number you dialed. The clone Ye Chen smiled, clapped his hands, and a fairy pattern appeared on his face. The wooden dragon rises into the sky. Wow, brother Ye, is this the dragon? So handsome. Let me sit down. Xiaodo couldn't hold back in an instant. The clone Ye Chen didn't look back. Wait for me to beat him up. Beidi Shan was speechless, jumped off the sword, and stepped into the void. The long sword that was originally sitting under the buttocks also returned to the hands of Beidi Shan. The wooden dragon at the foot of the clone Ye Chen grew bigger and bigger, and this time the wooden dragon was as tall as the previous wooden golem. He stood up and looked down at Beidi Shan below. Beidi Shan said that he was offended. Do you really want to fight? I'm afraid of hurting you. I won't be able to explain it to my brother then. Beidi Shan shook his head and sighed. That avatar Ye Chen was instantly angry. You look down on me? Do you believe that I have beaten you? Xiaodo looked excited below, but was a little scared. What if Baby Shan really moved? Brother Yi won't be seconded, right? But he was relieved quickly, because the real Ye Chen was hiding behind the previous wood expulsion jutsu point. But in fact, when Ye Chen used the wood style clone, Baby Shan had already noticed something was wrong. Especially when the Ye Chen in front of him was somewhat different from the Ye Chen he had seen before. Baby Shan already thought that this guy wouldn't have the ability to split into 2 point. Although Ye Chen concealed it well, there were still spiritual power fluctuations, and the spiritual power of the awakening state could not be fully controlled after all. Come on, let me see how strong my brother said Ye Chen is. Baby Shan stood with his hands behind his back and slowly lifted into the air. Even with Ye Chen, the two looked at each other and sympathized with each other. Wait, there was no sympathy for each other. Ye Chen stood on top of the wooden dragon and held Raijin Jaka tightly in his hand. Come on, Baby Shan, Mew. Long wanted to scream up to the sky, but Ye Chen always likes to stand on his head, so he can't scream, can only be suffocated towards Baby Shan to kill. Jan. Yi. Broken Mountain. Baby Shan did not panic at all and muttered in his mouth. The long sword in his hand was released and the fingers of his right hand were brought together, manipulating the long sword and picking it up with one sword point. A sword energy shot towards Ye Chen instantly. Ye Chen didn't panic at all, stroking the fake Raijin Jaka in his hand also slashed a slash point. When the sword key collided with the sword key, a shock wave rolled up, a gust of wind. The two key cancelled each other out, but it was obvious that the sword key was superior. Huh. My brother said that you are a genius. I agree. The fighting intent in Baby Shan's eyes slowly rose. Although his sword was just a casual blow, Ye Chen didn't seem to use all his strength. You are also very strong. At least until now, you are the strongest I have ever seen. Ye Chen stared at Baby Shan vigilantly. This opponent was very strong. It's not something that can be easily dealt with like the rubbish of Yansen people. Yansen run. You asterisk. If you have the ability, don't use that big Buddha. Ye Chen and Baby Shan faced each other again, and the fighting intent in Baby Shan's eyes became stronger and stronger. Ye Chen suddenly said slowly, or, let's just forget about it today. Baby Shan is stunned. I'm finally interested. You say forget it. It's like you and your partner do half of the foreplay in bed, and she tells you it's okay. Huh? What about playing around? No. I have to fight today. I finally become interested in you, but you are irresponsible. You want to be beautiful. Baby Shan roared. He didn't even want to ask for his face, and he didn't even care what he said. Look what this says. Why does it feel like I've been abandoned? Hey. Pay attention to the influence of your words. I'm not interested in men. Ye Chen responded loudly. There was silence in the villa area of the entire community. Man, this melon is a bit big. The man and the second man were interested, but the second man was not interested. Later, the first man gave up, but the second man became interested. Then the first man did not plan to go back, but the second man said that the first man was responsible. Okay, you don't dare to shoot like this in TV dramas. Xiaodo looked at Ye Chen, the avatar in the sky, with a look of caring for children and teenagers, and then turned to look at Zhang Zilei. Brother Yi, has he always been like this? Sigh. Zhang Zilei sighed and glanced at Ye Chen, who was hiding behind wood expulsion jutsu. I don't know how I survived before I awakened my talent in the first 18 years, but recently, you saw it yourself. Xiaodo nodded and said with emotion, yeah, if you don't have such a strong strength, brother, you would have to die 100 or 80 times, right? The main body. Ye Chen looked back at the two with murderous intent. Do you two think I don't exist? The real Ye Chen didn't want Baby Shan to know that he still had a body left here, and the result, this is good, and the two pig teammates blurted out angrily, boy, are you kidding me? Baby Shan blurted out, this night was more exciting than a lifetime. Who can stand this? P.S. The old rules equals 12 o'clock. Thank you readers for the great gift. There is a mysterious code in the gift message. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.